Jon Emmett's not only our guest, Julia, but he's the first one on here today. In the commenting section, Jon Emmett saying, good evening all from Weymouth. We'll have John with us live here in a moment. Ted Ryman saying hi from Cape Town in the Republic of South Africa. Tierd Diong in SoCal. And others joining us. Julia, there's some nice flowers.
I saw those.
Orchids right in the middle of our set today. We're going to have Matt Whitfield joining us on set. We'll move the orchids before he gets here.
Great.
Ed Worley down in SoCal, we have a segment from him today, America's Cup History Challenge. Marine Images saying good evening from Shetland. I guess you can probably guess who that is.
Yes.
Will no doubt be Graham Sweeney. There's Alistair Murray checking in. We got an AAAA from him on Friday. Clayton Embley is at the ferry. Let's get this one across the starting line. Welcome. A blustery day, Clark Chapin says, in Plymouth, Michigan, a far cry from the balmy temperatures they had last week. Such is Michigan weather. Well, it's only the bloody hell. It's the middle of March. Bob Walker checking in from the north of Texas and many others. This would be a good show to join us in the chat. Tell us where you are. Tell us who you are if you haven't, if you're not a regular, because we have Jon Emmett standing politely and patiently by in Weymouth. In the UK, he'll be with us in a minute. Julie, I trust you are well.
I am. How's that?
What are you looking at? You're looking down instead of up at your camera or over at me.
Well, it was a message from a sick friend.
Uh-oh. Well, I hope your friend, he or she, is better. As the Sitka spruce specialist is checking in from Holland. Nice to have another one of our Dutch friends on. He's going to be on the show sooner than later. One can only hope.
Yes.
But that's the plan. We are live from Beach Street Yacht Club as usual here in San Francisco's beautiful Marina District. And it is, as you can see through the slats here, through the window, it's a beautiful day. It is, Julia, what?
The first day of spring.
The first day of spring, indeed. And we want to wish everybody in due course. That's why I'm in a yellow shirt. That's why you are in a green dress. Those are spring colors, aren't they?
They are.
And Easter colors.
Yes.
And let's get into it, and we'll bring John in a moment, who is our live guest. You know, I always wonder, Julie, whether we should say live guest or just guest.
Present.
Because, you know, they are live.
Yeah, they are.
Or they wouldn't be a guest. Look at that.
I know.
Smiling.
In person.
Chris Ferry is checking in from Melbourne. We've got great update for you from Perth, from the Etchells Worlds going on out there. And Emmett, John is saying, please submit any questions early so he can think about it. He can scratch something, his chin or his head, and think about what he's going to.
That looks good, though.
He's going to answer your questions. Let's get into it. We want to wish you all a belated. We've done all that. You know what? I changed the buttons for advancing the slides, and I moved the bloody slide advancing to a different button. And you know what? I'll probably make mistakes all day today. Hopefully not. But let's get through this because I don't want to make any more mistakes. We don't want to see a repeat of that. But we do want to wish you a happy St. Patrick's Day belatedly.
Yes.
It was on, as you know, Sunday. And we had a little bit of a
We did.
tipple.
Yeah.
Huh?
Yeah, I have to have a good Irish coffee for breakfast.
I took you a nice, I didn't take the Irish whiskey up, but you poured that in
I know.
from your own stash up
I
there,
know.
and that was pretty good. So those of you who celebrated it or are still celebrating it, maybe, happy St. Patrick's Day. And I thought Julia and John would agree. I think that he probably remembers. In fact, why don't I just bring John in right now, shall we, Julia?
Sure.
Everybody, please welcome our regular, our Super FOSI and Super Olympic coach, Jon Emmett, who is with us from Weymouth in the UK in his adopted hometown. Hi, John. Hi, John.
Hi, are you okay for sound?
Now we are, if I get all the buttons pushed right. John, you remember the 2012 Olympics? That's when your beloved wife won a gold medal, and you're headed off to see her in Shanghai soon. When do you leave?
Yeah, I mean, it's really scary to think 2012 was 12 years ago. I mean, it's very basic maths, but it doesn't seem that long ago to me. So I'm literally packing at the moment. I'm feeling quite tired because I'm already getting over the jet lag, if that makes sense. So I actually go forward a few hours each day. So when I get to Shanghai, it makes it all a bit easier. So I'm waiting for the washing machine to finish drying stuff, putting it in a bag, off to the farm tomorrow to sort stuff out, and then off to Shanghai for an invitational regatta. So it seems the season's very early this year. We've already had all the World Championships and all the spring qualifiers. So no rest for the.
Well, notwithstanding that the first day of spring is also early. It's a day earlier than it normally is, and we have the answer. Do you know why, Julia?
No.
We have the answer. Jody Shields is checking in. Hello, I was hoping to give you some more info regarding the new show I'm doing for SailGP, but details haven't been finalized yet. Okay, Jody, will keep us posted on that. Clark is saying that John was last, the featured, I like featured better than live.
Yes.
The featured guest was on 11th of February 2022. So, John, that's 2 years ago. I didn't realize it had been that long, but of course we see you every show. So it's not like we're missing. What, John, are you going to give us some videos when you are maybe not en route to, but when you're in Shanghai visiting your wife?
Yeah, I hope so. We'll see how strong the Great Firewall is, because sometimes it gets amazingly difficult to transfer stuff. But I'll do my best, and I'll take my little pocket out with me. I have a Pocket 3, which is amazingly good quality, and I can do those walks and talks quite easily, even with a bit of a funny shoulder. I don't think I can blame Sailing Illustrated for the funny shoulder. I'm walking along holding stuff for a long time, but I'm basically trying to avoid overhead movements, so it's a good excuse not to help people. But
is your shoulder better? You just came from Pilates, right? 5 minutes ago.
Yeah, no. I mean, these sort of injuries are 6 to 12 weeks if you rest. I actually should have, in the last one, I should have actually held that photo for a bit longer so people could see, but it's a partial tear, so it's about halfway through the tendon. I think I probably did that. I'm 90% sure I did that before the Worlds in Argentina. So I think it's always easier to assess other people's injuries when you step back, but realistically, I've been putting up quite a lot of pain.
What's your next What's your next sailing event?
Oh, well, I think it's literally called the Shanghai Cup. We're going. I've just packed, 2 tillers and a sail and all the ropes for the boat and all the rest of it, and hoping it works. Obviously, this will be the Chinese manufacturers. So I bought 1 tiller from Devotti and 1 tiller from E6, and hopefully between the 2 of them, one will fit. So I'm not quite sure what to check. I think I've been conned because it looks colder in Shanghai than Weymouth at the moment. But there we go.
Well, back to our show on St. Patrick's Day, our belated celebration of St. Patrick's Day. John, you were at the Olympics in 2012. Julia, I'm not sure you've seen this video. John probably has, but there's a hilarious video. It's 3 minutes long of an Irish commentator commentating on the Olympics 2012 in Weymouth, where John is now. And have you seen the video, right, John?
Yes. However many times they took it down, it went straight back up again.
Well, I've got it. I've managed to get a copy, and every time we have It's Okay, our sailing team down in Newport Beach, we play this video just to get a laugh. And one of our FOSI sent it to me over the weekend in honor of St. Patrick's Day, and I thought we would play it for all of you now. Enjoy. Oh, I've done it again. I pressed the backwards
You join
button.
us for the 30th Olympiad, and we're at the sailing. Yeah, there you can hear the Olympic horn being sounded. Signifies there's only 4 minutes left of this race, and it's looking very close and confusing. Alicia Cebrian Martinez de Lagos from Espanyol, and she's on 26 points, whatever that means. Mind your head. Should have got fucked out of it there. Very confusing scenes here. We don't know who's in the lead. Or is that Russia at the far left? They're ahead of everyone else, ahead of Norway and Portugal. Some madman there going the wrong way completely. He doesn't know where he's going. Go back, you fool. You're not going to win any medals going that way. Dickhead. Quick look at the stats. We've got length 4.23. We have a beam of 1.37. It's controversial. Sail area of 5.76 meters squared, and a total boat weight of 74 kgs. There you have it. And it's shaping up to be very exciting now. Everyone, all the nationalities are coming in together. New Zealand, Netherlands there, Brazil, Denmark. Cock in the lead. And who's going to catch the cock? Some idiots watching from the sideline there. Binoculars in hand. Lovely finish, lady. Won't mind finishing off with her. Australian flag. The Aussies are afoot. Or I can't see them. You'd hear them before you'd see them. Load of fuckers there, actually. For what is essentially a very, very boring sport indeed. Belarus. There. Not so good on the water, it seems. Questionable human rights records as well for that country. Very windy. There's Ireland in the background. Watch the fucking head. Nearly got twatted with the sail again. The Dutch as well. Must have been smoking. There we have Team GB, led by Steven Spielberg. He's taking notes there. A couple of the lads on the phones to probably wives and children or other film producers. I don't know why he's there. Is that the finish line? There's still a minute 30 left on the clock anyway. More idiots at the side there. From some former British colony, it seems. Don't know where exactly, but they look annoying as we reach the last minute. And yeah, there is the Olympic horn again. Who's going to win this? Tim Henman looks on from the boat with the with Spielberg and the boys. Very eclectic mix of people on the Team GB boat there, blending the world of film and sport. But yeah, it's looking very close now. Everybody's bunching together. I'm not familiar with the strategy or tactics in sailing, but come here, it's very, very exciting. We've 15 seconds left. Somebody has to win this. It's neck and neck and neck. New Zealand are getting help off the Brits there. They're sailing dangerously close to the boat. And 5 seconds. Who's going to win? Someone has to win before the clock runs out. Come on! The Olympic horn sounds and no one crossed the line before the clock ran out. Or it's the beginning of the race. It's the beginning. I got it wrong. It's the beginning of the race. Unfortunately, we don't have any more time here. We have to leave. But back with more sports soon from the 30th Olympiad. Thank you very much.
I haven't seen that for ages. It's really funny.
John, does that bring back any memories?
I can't help but notice that Lily had an absolutely terrible start. The whole thing's gone, but there we go.
Coaching, always coaching. She had a terrible start. Alistair Murray says, world sailing demonstrated they have no sense of humor by trying to block this all the time. It's a classic. I apologize for the coarse language. We don't normally, fancy that on this show. Joe Holtzman up in Colorado saying absolutely hilarious. Love this Guinness. Chet Ryman's think the commentator was powered by some Guinness.
Yeah.
Probably was. Stingray and lots of other comments. I thought you all would enjoy that on this belated tribute to St. Patrick's Day. And I want to thank I don't want to hear it again, okay? We don't want to hear it again, but I just want to thank Christian Price, who sent that along to us over the weekend, and the Price family, the Priceys, that's our FOSI's Harry, Olivia, Christian, and David, left to right. Of course, Harry we featured last week. He was the runner-up in the JJ in the 18-footer series, the ostensible world championship down in Sydney. He finished second with his team. This group is one of the families that are. Is there another FOSI family, Julia, that you can think of?
With that many people?
Well, any number. Can you think of another husband and wife who've been on the show? I can. Husband and wife, in this case, they're two kids, but you need to look at John smiling. He knows what I'm going to do. John and his wife have been on the show.
Right.
So there's another FOSI family.
Right.
Any others?
I'm not thinking in those lines these days, so I'm.
Well, we'll see if any of the FOSI can remember. But I just wanted to thank the Priceys, David Pricey Price, he had a bit of a struggle. We have had Jody Shields and his wife on the show. Remember when they were live from Bora Bora or someplace on holiday and had a couple cocktails and phoned in?
Yeah.
I haven't, Steve Goober's wondering if we've had the Honeys on. I don't think we've had both Stan and Sally on either separately or at the same time. We're going to have them sooner or later.
Stan's been on.
Stan's been on. Sally, I don't think she's been on, but we'll work on
We've
that.
reported on her escapades.
Now, John, you've got to help me with this next one because this is also belated. Julia's birthday was yesterday. You know what? I'm going to push the wrong button all day, but happy birthday, Julia.
Oh, thank you.
And we want to celebrate it today. And I want you to know that we have from the FOSI a gift. One of the FOSI, one of our super FOSIs, in fact, brought this over yesterday and dropped it off.
Oh,
It is, whoops,
careful.
I know.
Oh, it's
It
gorgeous.
is for you. I didn't know where to put it.
It's
So
beautiful.
let's at least get a picture of you with it
Yes,
because it is nice.
it's absolutely great. I love these guys. You know that.
I know. And 3 ice cubes, right?
Yes.
3 ice cubes only.
Yep.
But wait, there's more.
Uh-oh.
There's sea candies, truffles,
Oh, my.
and a card.
How nice.
And this is from our great friend, Darlene Hines and FOSI. She's given us any number of things, including, I think, Darlene and her late husband are the ones that are responsible, Jon Emmett. I'll do the Julia PIP for the original croutons.
Yeah.
They
Right.
gave, when I used the word a few times, not on the show, but in public, you know, in St. Francis Yacht Club. But Julia, yesterday you turned,
A little old 85.
where you're hiding behind your flowers now.
Yes.
Here, you want me to take those back?
Yep.
I don't know where to put them.
Well, put them on your table for now.
Well, okay. You turned 85.
Nobody can do that.
Well.
Can't imagine that.
Now, how does that, let's see if we get that in my camera one shot. Not quite. You can just see some of the leaves here. Well, we'll adjust that during the next video. Happy birthday, Julia.
Thank you
John, help
very
me sing
much.
a little happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Julia. Happy birthday to you.
Thank you very much.
85, you don't act a day over 25, Gruber is saying.
I'm never growing up.
Laura Stevens checking in, saying happy birthday, Julia. And any of you that want to give her some birthday wishes, please, you can do so in the comments or otherwise, because why not?
And Alex Saldana.
Right? And there she is in the chat. 85 and still gorgeous, Ryman says.
Woo!
Alex Saldana down in South America. Feliz Aniversario.
Oh, that's nice.
Nice comments to you, Julia. Belated happy birthday to our co-hosts, the Commodore of the Beach Street Yacht Club, and much more. My landlady.
Thanks to all. I love you all. You know that.
Good. We love you, and keep it up. What else is today? Today
The solstice.
is the equinox.
Equinox.
It is the March equinox, the first day of spring here in the northern hemisphere, and the first day of autumn for those of you in the southern hemisphere, and it is the earliest since 1896.
That's so.
Yes, it's on today, Tuesday, the March the 19th, a few hours from now. It's at 8:06 p.m. here, so in about 7 hours, a little less than 7 hours tonight. Why? And normally, as you all know, is normally, Julia, and John I'm sure knows too, it's normally on the 20th or the 21st. Why is it so early today? John, do you have any idea? Julia, do you know why it's appeared on the 19th?
Change the Gregorian calendar.
No, but close. I mean, that's actually not a bad guess, and it's sort of semi-authentic. Look at this, next slide. Earliest since 1896, during the precise time of the equinox, as you all know, the Earth will experience nearly equal daylight and nighttime. So why is it happening so early this year? Ryman's got it. Gordon Smith's got it. Morris Stevens has got it. It's because of
Leap year.
the leap year. The simple answer.
Yeah.
Jody wants to know if it's because the Bitcoin stocks are low. Actually, the Dow was up pretty good. I don't know what the Fed said this afternoon. Alistair saying, actually, the first day of autumn for us is the 1st of March. Oh, yeah, that's like our first day of summer is different than what the calendar summer is. But in any event, it's the earliest, I did it again, bloody hell, the earliest March equinox anyone alive has ever seen.
Wow.
What do you think of that?
Oh, that's amazing.
I think it is too. What else are we celebrating today? There's a clue. Any idea, John?
No, not doing very well at this game.
Well, it looks like a Mardi Gras.
Does, close, but it's Mardi Gras in Spain. Steve Gruber's first.
Oh, yeah.
He's got it. Las Fallas
Oh, yes, of course.
today, and they spelled it wrong. This website spelled it wrong. It's not Fallas, it's Fallas, Fallas. It's the March 15th, a little longer than that. But today, the 19th, is the final day of the Fallas. That's when they burn these floats. And they're in the, it's astonishing. They are in the town square, not the town square. Well, they are in the town square. They have the Mosque l'État there every day at noon for Fallas week. And it's the loudest thing I've ever been to, full stop. So loud that you know, I'm up with the mayor up on her balcony and back in the day, and it's so loud you can barely stand it. And of course you have earmuffs or, you know, earplugs or something, but it still comes right through, hugely loud. But then they have all of these paper mache statuary, and they're significant, moral and social significance to whatever's going on, and they're in the intersections all over the city. And they spend a year building these things.
In the intersection?
In the intersections of, and it's tough to get around this week. And then some committee goes around and ranks them. And the one that is considered to be the best is put into the museum. The one that is second best is burned. I think I have that right. Morris Stevens or someone will help me.
Yeah.
Mosque l'État is the daily noon fireworks. Correct. And as usual, we have a little video to tell you more about this, which I think I'm going to voice, because I don't think there's any audio with it. Las Fallas. Every spring, the rite of spring, really. There's Valencia, old Valencia. There are just some of those fantastic statuary. Paper mache. Look at the quality of that.
Yes.
Mostly styrofoam, Steve Gruber is saying, yeah. And you wonder how, but they do this every year, and there's flowers like the Rose Parade floats, Julia. And you wonder how they ever why they don't burn the entire city down, because these things are all over the place, but the firefighters come out and protect them. You walk down the streets and the kids are throwing fireworks at you, scare the hell out of you, middle of the day. There's a queen, that's not the Reina, but there's a queen in her court and more. There's the firefighters getting ready. Oh, no, that's not a firefighter. Big cultural festival. UNESCO has made a big deal out of this. And literally the town fills up with something like 1 million people, give or take, to watch the fireworks at night. And Valencia is one of the fireworks capitals of the world, arguably the biggest one outside of China, or so they told us.
They manufacture them there?
Yes, in Spain, but particularly in the Comunidad, the community, the region. And there's all sorts of cultural implications here that I don't understand. Peggy Lidster saying, awesome, love that city. I know that you know it well. Well, we lived there for 10 years, nearly. and you never knew whether to get out of town or to stay around. Even in our little village of Puthol, outside of town, they had a one of these things that they lit on fire. Yeah, Alex Aldana, man, the dogs must get used to it after a few years of it.
I don't know how I missed that. It's one of those things that I want to do that I would think that I would have made a point to do, and I haven't ever.
Jody says we can't use plastic straws because it's bad for the environment, but this could happen. And you know what? Depending upon the wind the next morning, there's usually, if there's an inversion, they have an LA-style inversion, and it locks all this stuff in. The fireworks at night, every night during this week of FIOS, is just astonishing. And they do them over the river called the Turia. There's the firefighters cleaning up. Las Fallas, Valencia, Spain, home of the America's Cup 2007 and 2010. That's a video from last year, from 2023. I hope you enjoyed that. And we're celebrating Las Fallas today and the first day of spring, and we're also celebrating all of you, our foes. I did it again. I got to move that button here in the next video because I'm just a crouton. Sailing Illustrated celebrates its patrons. Thanks for your support. Patreon.com/join/Sailing Illustrated. Give us a few bucks a month. Help keep us on the air, and we really appreciate it. We use it for the expenses of the studio and the show, our internet costs, and so on. And
it's very much appreciated.
And it is indeed very much appreciated. Muscle memory, Tom. Yeah, it is. You know, you kind of get into the flow here and you just go, I'm going to change it back because the button that I normally push is the lower left button on one of these stream decks, and I moved it to the second one in. Julia's over there checking her cards out now.
Yeah.
Isn't it a nice card?
It is.
And Graham Sweeney saying, I once went to a procession in Barcelona where they had a saint with a devil's tail. Go figure. Yeah, well, this stuff is irreverent. It's a lot of fun, these statuettes. My understanding is that FIOS is not only a celebration of the end of winter, but started off with people just burning their junk. I don't think so, Steve. Maybe. I don't remember that. Some barrios decided to build sculptures from their junk representing political views or events, which they do.
Probably not a bad idea.
Of the last year, hence the sculptures. And they are political, most of them, and quite interesting indeed. Philip Laffin, welcome to you. I see you're watching. Thanks again to all of you who support us on Patreon or otherwise. Appreciate it. I did it again. I'm telling you what, I am the biggest crouton on the face of Sailing Illustrated today. I'm going to change that button during this video so that I don't keep doing it. I promise.
Okay.
And this video is Jon Emmett, who is our guest today. He's standing by, as you all know, in Weymouth. We've already welcomed him, but we'll get him back after this video, which is his latest video, apropos this British qualifying regatta that they've just had in the Ilkas. And I'll have him explain all of it. Well, John, why don't you do the setup for this video before I run it?
Yeah, no problem. I mean, basically, there's far more people in the Ilka class who want to do World Championships than there's places. I mean, particularly in the Ilka 7, I guess, crikey, you would have 800 boats and there's only 180 supplied. So it means we have to have a qualification system in the UK to decide who gets those places. So we have 6 events a year. It's a rolling ladder, counting 4 out of the 6 most recent events. And most of the time we have 4s, 6s and 7s there all at the same time. And actually in the UK, we have a separate Masters series. So it's really good. I mean, back in the day, you know, people like Ben Ainsley, etc., they always used to come back to do the qualifiers. So not only does it mean we send very strong teams to the international events, it means the young and up-and-coming sailors have the opportunity to literally race against Olympic champions. And I think this is a really important thing, to have qualification rather than selection. And I would say there's a few years, because we tend to have our qualifiers near the equinoxes, that's March and October, we quite often have very windy qualifiers. So maybe the British team wasn't so strong in the lightest of light summer winds, but that's the way it goes.
Okay, well, I'll run that video now, and then we'll be back with John for more. And if you have questions, submit them. John's watching the questions himself and in responding indeed directly to some of them in the comments and the questions.
Qualifier 3, the last of the spring ILCA UK qualifiers, and finally we have a weekend of 6 races. Admittedly, first day was a little bit misty, a little bit wet, but all races done. Today we were in Portland Harbour and it was glamour conditions. A low for some, a bit of a hike off. 3 very worthy winners. Lots more racing to come in the ILCA class, and hopefully we're going to have a bumper turnout this year at the National Championships. Ben Elvin, you're qualifier champion here at the Weymouth and Portland National Sailing Academy, and it's not the first qualifier you've won. Can you just tell us a little bit about your sailing background, and then I'm going to ask you about some other things.
Well, yeah, I've been in the fleet for quite a few years now. I think probably started sailing the ILCA in 2008 was probably when I started doing it seriously. Didn't win a qualifier until, I don't know, it must have been 2019, 2020 or something.
And now you keep winning them.
Yeah, I think this is my 3rd, so not at a massive rate, but you know, I have won a few now. As much sailing as I can, but also a lot of time on the bike. You know, just working the legs and learning how to suffer, really. I think it helps in this boat.
So you enjoy the suffering, or is it a necessary evil?
I would say enjoy, but in a kind of satisfaction kind of way, rather than in the moment kind of way. This year, a lot of the events have all kind of happened already, and on the kind of European circuit, there isn't too much going on to interest me. So I'm going to be focusing on maybe a couple of Grand Prix event open meetings, Masters Nationals, that kind of thing. But it has left a bit of a gap for a bit more cycling this year. So definitely be doing a lot of races on the bike.
I'm Jess, and I'm from Draycott Water Sailing Club.
And we just want to talk a little bit about your top tips for people who are moving from the ILCA 4. Into the ILCA 4 from the topper.
I'd probably just say they're quite similar boats, like the setup and stuff's quite similar. So I wouldn't overthink it too much. I would just I don't know, try and focus on getting good starts and then just sail it. Probably how you would a topper. There wasn't much to change about it. Just hike as well. What
made you go down the single-handed route?
For me, I just prefer making my own decisions, and then if I mess something up, it's my fault, and if it feel less guilty if I mess something up. And then it's just then you can take credit for your own results as well, and it's not like there's someone else. And I just find it a lot easier for me to think, and I don't have to talk to someone else about it.
You don't want to talk to anyone else. How would you handle the fitness requirement, because you're eventually going to be moving into the ILCA 6, which is the Women's Olympic single-handed class, and fitness, crikey, especially on a weekend like this, really important.
So I go to the gym a bit as well. You do fitness at home, and then I always find that just sailing as well, that improves the fitness, because there's not many other sports that are similar. There's you can simulate it, but it's not really the same. So I find sailing a lot as well, and heavy winds, that helps.
My name's James Cook, and it's been quite a nice weekend weather-wise to come back to.
So any top tips for those young people who are just about to go full-time sailing or putting in a lot of hours to try and avoid those niggles or manage them, or as you did fully recover?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of one of those things where the more you push it, the worse it can get, and yeah, you don't want to go over that edge, because you put yourself out for a lot longer than you need to.
And it's great, everything's now come good for you. Can you just tell us, is there anything you did or didn't do? I know you have a lot of support from the BST.
Yeah, I had an injection into it, which kind of helped ease pain, so I could kind of still compete with it.
So is that a guided corticosteroidal injection?
Yes.
Very important, guided, to make sure it goes in exactly the right place.
Yeah, it's not the shortest process. It's got needles in the back of your shoulder for about 20 minutes, half an hour, but yeah, that really helps, and just deep tissue massages and loosening everything up when
needed. A couple of weeks off, being good boy.
Yeah. Especially when the forecast gets a bit big, is managing when you kind of push it and when you don't, really. Yeah.
And Princess Sophia just around the corner. Have you expectations? Looking forward to this?
Yes. Yeah. Last kind of main event for us in the season. It's quite an early one, so you kind of want to finish off on a high, and I'm excited for it.
Brilliant. We're wishing you and all the BST very best of luck, and we'll all be watching your progress.
Thank you.
Notice on here, John, who finished second, is Weir Wood Sailing Club, which until that graphic I had never, of which, Julia, I had never heard. So I want to come out of that and ask Jon about the Weir Wood Sailing Club. Jon, can you hear me?
Yeah, I mean, the very first place I sailed at was a place called Crawley Mariners. And I mean, it's literally a puddle. I don't think in the old days when you used to look at maps, I don't think there's enough water for it actually to show on the map. And you can walk all the way across it. And it's amazing to think of the people who came from there. So you've got Helena Lucas, who was a Paralympic gold medalist. You had Simon Hiscox, who was a double Olympic medalist. And also Weirwood, which is a much bigger piece of water compared to Hedgecourt Lake, both within about 3 miles of the family farm. And the reason I still sign on for them is, they introduced me to my love of the sport. I came through a really good group then. So there's people like Rob Greenhouse. I'm sure these are names you've heard of. Peter Greenhouse. They were there sailing 420s at the same time as I was sailing lasers, as it were, Ilkas now. And it was just, what set me off to my career. I mean, my day in, day out club is Castle Cove, which is, I guess, 2 miles from the academy. And I'm really looking forward to the season starting there. In fact, I'm going to miss the first few races because I'm going to be in China. But yeah, Weirwood made me a life honorary member, and it's so nice to see my friends' kids are now really into sailing, and they're sailing the was the Laser 2000. It's now the RS 2000, and they're all coming down to Castle Cove to do that national championships with their families. And actually, Lily won that event. That was a really nice thing. And I think this idea of home club and home community, it's such an important thing. Although it does amaze me at Castle Cove, it's really hard to get them to travel to the Weymouth and Portland National Sailing Academy, which is something like 2 miles away. And as I say, we've got the Nationals there this year. But
So this is down, if my geography, which is, of course, limited, Heathrow, or not Heathrow, what's the other airport? Is just
very close.
Gatwick.
to
It's Gatwick, right? Just to the west of your club.
That's my preferred place because it means I can go and see my mum if possible.
So the reason you're there is because of it's close to your home farm. You're down on the farm. Okay, so let's look at some other pictures here. That's the lake. Is it a reservoir? Is it a wide spot in the river? Yeah. What is the?
Yeah, no, it's a reservoir. I guess it's about 3 miles from the family farm. And that when I first joined, there was a waiting list. I had to sort of sneak in. I was a member of a youth organisation called the Nautical Training Corps, which is very much like the Sea Scouts or whatever, etc. And sadly, I think it may be folding. But that was something I had very fond memories of. And so my topper was put under them. But if you look, it's long and thin. So I'm actually pretty good at reaching and sailing on shifty winds, even though I've been sailing out of Weymouth for the last 25 years. So the old triangle sausage course probably favoured me more than the trapezoid. So
what's the longest leg that they can set on that lake?
Well, I mean, the prevailing wind direction is actually that sort of southwesterly going all the way down. So, I hate to exaggerate, but probably 2 kilometres or something like that.
So in that shot, Jon, are we looking north or northwest or?
It's northeast, southwest, roughly.
Yeah, okay.
But the wind tends to funnel down it, and that is our prevailing winter wind, northeast, and summer wind, southwest. So, yeah. But it's funny, you just, you sort of accept what you grow up with. And a lot of sailors, so Paul Goodison, who was in the same youth squad as myself, or whatever, he came from a tiny place called Ully. Although I think they used to sign off for Beaver Sailing Club because they thought it was, well, I'll leave that to imagination. But a lot of sailors come from these short little puddles. And I think it's much easier to teach a sailor who has good wind awareness and good shift and pressure recognition how to sail in waves than the other way around. So a lot of the sailing schools, you go and you learn to sail somewhere where the wind blows the same strength and the same direction. But then it's a real shock to the system when you go somewhere else.
There are a lot of people that have signed on, probably to see you. Lamberto Cesare. Hello, Lamberto. Kevin Bodkin is on. Niley Williamson joining us. And I was talking with Matt Whitfield, who's going to join us live here on set later in the show. He's staying with us, with me here at the Beach Street Yacht Club while he raced this past weekend at St. Francis. We'll tell you about that regatta. In fact, we're going to tell you more about it. I've got a couple interviews that I'm not able to play today that we're going to play on Friday's show. They're really interesting. But apropos all of that, there's some comments here. One is, and I was talking with Matt about this, why do you suppose Australia, New Zealand, the UK, you can argue about France, you can argue about one or two other countries, but why are these three countries in particular so successful, big picture, long term, in the sport? And I asserted to Matt, well, they're island nations, first of all, so most of them, you're not too far from the water. In Australia, you can get in the middle of the country and be a long ways away from the water, but everybody lives on the coast. And then Gordon Smith is making the point there are so many small sailing clubs on rivers, reservoirs, and gravel pits across England, which is something that we all are familiar with. Why is that, John? Why are all these dinghy clubs in particular strewn across Blighty?
I think there's at least three answers in no particular order. The first one is accessibility. It's really easy to get into sailing in the UK. Really easy to get into sailing. And I would like to go around all those old sailing clubs and take down the signs that say private members only, and replace them with new members welcome or something like that. The second thing, which is really from quite an early stage, is the squad system. So you end up sailing with like-minded people, similar groups, everybody at the same place. And any country can do that. I mean, Finland has we worked as a squad system. It's minus 20 degrees in January. So you have to travel. The squad system, it's really important. And then you have the third thing, you have that continuation of talent. So we've got people who, for example, went to the Olympic Games in 2008, 2012. They're now back in the system coaching. If you look at Australia, they've won the laser/Ilka gold medal consecutively for Olympic Games. Michael Blackburn, who's a previous world champion, he's very much part of that. And I think that's a really important thing. And success breeds success. If you're part of a team where everybody's got a good chance of medal, I guess you sort of think, well, I've got a chance of a medal being part of this team, and all the infrastructure that goes into supporting that. Whereas if you're in a country which is never qualified for the Olympic Games, you're probably mindset struggling to think, well, am I good enough to just get to the Olympic Games? So I think that success breeds success. But having said that, a lot of countries are catching up, and it gets harder and harder every Olympic cycle to select who the likely medalists are now. Whereas if you ask me, in 2000, I would have got 3 out of 3.
Okay, let's look at some more images from your club, your home club, I guess you would call this. I mean, it's like me, my little home club in Michigan, where Clark Chapin sails, where Joe Holtzman used to sail, Portage Yacht Club. I still think it was my home club. I'm not even a member anymore, I don't think.
Oh, I think
I'm kind of an honorary member,
yeah,
but a member of a few other clubs, Julie, like your club, to say nothing of Beach Street Yacht Club. But look at this beautiful scene here. What else do you sail, obviously, besides Ilkas?
It's funny, I find it really easy just to sort of look back and say the good old days, because we have a little bit, and problem is the wrong word, but we have a little bit of problem with boats in the UK. So when I first started, we used to have Mirrors, Enterprises, Fireballs, Lasers, and then we had a sixth fleet, which was a handicap fleet. But basically, everybody was doing class racing, and that's what I love. I think I said in a previous vlog that I really enjoyed doing the RS Games. Really good fleet with the Aero 7s. I've also done the Aero 6s. And then this year we've got the D0s are going to have their Europeans in Weymouth. So I'm really looking forward to that class racing. Now we have so many boats in the UK. You can have a fleet of 20 boats with 10 different classes. And then I just think that's a shame. I get the idea that there's a boat there for everybody. But, whether you sail a Hadron 2 or a D0 or a Phantom, or I don't know, there's so many boats that sort of doing the same thing. It's a bit of a shame that sometimes the races, it's one before the start on handicap, because if you've got something like a 420 and it's 30 knots, your handicap works very well. or if it's 5 knots, your handicap works very badly, and vice versa. You know, if you have a phantom, you know, you're very quick in 5 knots, but when it's, you know, 30 knots, one person, 10 meters of sail area, you're not going to go anywhere. So I do have to say I'm a huge fan of class racing, and it is a bit of a shame that you have lots of people sailing lots and lots of different boats. The exception to that, in nearly every club in the UK, is we have ILCA fleets, and that's why I think the ILCA needs to be part of the Olympic Games, because it just makes it accessible for small M&As, because there aren't other boats like that. Putting together a NACRA or a 49er campaign is incredibly expensive, and you don't really see those boats at club level because of the only interesting thing
we sure
have
don't.
now.
I was talking with Paul Henderson the other day. I haven't talked to him in a long time. It's the same thing here. You know, you have a handful now of 470s. We used to have lots of 470s, handful of NACRAs, a handful of, you know, a few of the other Olympic classes, but only ILCAs are widely distributed in the U.S. One other, let's go back though to your other thesis here, I think, is that at our club, our little club in Michigan, my dad, who was the major domo there, owns the physical plant and has since 1966. He always said, you can only come in and sail at this club. I'll only give you a dock space, a marina, a mooring, if you have one of the existing classes, of which there were arguably 4. And there was a bit of over years, they shifted from one class to another. There was a bit of evolution, I should say. But it's a hard question, because you let the free market do its thing, and if you don't, you never get a good new boat like the Laser coming in our case, replacing the Sun, replacing or displacing or adding to the Sunfish, for example. If you don't let the free market do its thing, or do you have to have a regulated free market where you say, okay, we're going to not let lasers in here yet until they build up and it looks like it's popular, and then we'll start letting lasers in? Or do you just let it be a free-for-all? And especially now, as at least in our country, the sport is declining so much that clubs have no choice but to kind of let all comers, let them in, and then do some handicap racing and hope people will then gravitate to one fleet or another and have a stronger one design setup. What do you think, John? And what do the FOSI think? I'd be interested in everybody else's responses.
Yeah, I'm sort of aware there's quite a few questions going in. I don't know whether you want me to start taking some of them before they scroll off the top of the screen. But for me, I would say the 470, an example, I haven't seen it as a club boat in over a decade. I mean, the only people who are sailing those Olympic classes are full-time Olympic sailors.
Exactly.
Now, Castle Cove is pretty good. That everyone seems to sort of get together at the beginning of the season and go, well, we're hosting the Scorpion Nationals this year. Let's all jump into Scorpions and we can all sail them on Mondays and Wednesdays, and then we're all sort of improved. We've got some very, very good sailors in the club, like Sam Pascoe, Sam Barker. They're doing Musto skiffs, and they're actually, I think, in the winter series, the Selden Winter Series, I think Sam won 5 out of 6 of the events. But you do have that progression, and what's been really good at getting the foiling accessible, and I say accessible, and it's still hard to get into, but making it accessible is the Wasp. It now looks like there's another boat called the Switch, which was, I think, originally developed by Devoti, going to be sold by East 6. And that's sort of halfway between the Wasp and the Moth, and market forces may mean that takes off. It's, you know, a much faster, much more similar boat to the Moth, but probably you probably get 2 switches for a Moth. So I never want to stand in the way of progress, and I think there's room for all aspects of our sport. But as I say, I think class racing is where it's at. I'm not, in terms of persuading people, I'm more a carrot person than a stick.
Yeah, and a lot of people agreeing with you, and I do too. Alistair Murray, for example, is saying let people sail whatever they want. He, of course, the president of the Australian Sailing, their national governing body. Let them. Sorry, John.
It's better than going and doing another sport.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and that's what he's saying. Let people sail whatever they want. Will then gravitate to where the strength is. Hopefully, that's the case. Andrew McIrvin also saying, too many classes is nothing new. Graham Sweeney saying, my club had to regulate its fleet and we moved to the solo. We even limited the daily number so no new boats could come into the fleet to dominate. This action saved our racing club. So it is an issue. I want to welcome Andrew McIrvin in. He's having a hell of a time with his back. I've been trading texts with him while he was skiing in Italy, and now he's back home, and hope that sailor's back of yours, Andrew McIrvin, heals up and you're back in good shape. John Albert Collings, I was a laser sailor in the mid-'80s, and we had a squad with coach Lex Bertrand, and our group produced a laser world champion. So the squad system, let's come back to that in a moment, but you keep, I won't say harping on it, but you keep reminding us, John, of the importance of that system. But let's also talk about the social life at your club, because I saw this off on the website for the Weirwood Sailing Club, and it looks like an amazing lakeside ambiance and a nice facility, simple, screened in deck there maybe, or porch or tent. What's going on?
That brings back memories. I mean, it's a fantastic view as well. I mean, I just, yeah. When I had my neck surgery, I couldn't do anything for 7 months, and actually that's when I wrote the book Be Your Own Sailing Coach. But one of the things which coincidentally Lily read, liked, and asked me to coach her, and as I say, the rest is history. But I used to just walk down to the club, even though it's 3 miles and I couldn't really do very much. That was one of the things I did. But going back to earlier, sometimes the problem does solve itself. So if you sail a solo, you go and join Hailing Island because they have a good solo fleet. You know, if you're sailing an Ilka, you go to Stokes Bay because there's lots of good Ilka sailors there. If you're sailing the 49ers, you probably want to come to Weymouth, etc. So sometimes that, and problem is the wrong word, it does solve it. But the squad system, I coach through repetition, but there's no need to reinvent the wheel. If you want to be a successful M&A at sailing, you just have to copy what the successful M&As are doing. I mean, it really is that simple. I'm not saying it's easy, but the benchmark is there for everybody to copy, and that's right down to grassroots sailing up to how you do your Olympic trials and support the athletes at the big event.
Okay, John, well, we've got a bit of a surprise for you. As I said at the top of the show, we've got another sailing rock star here staying with us this weekend at the Beach Street Yacht Club, and he's just filtered in here and joined us in Studio B. Matt Whitfield. Matthew, welcome.
Hi, how are you, Tom? How are you, Julia? And John?
I understand you and John know each other.
Yeah, we used to sail lasers.
I probably have more hair.
John was the oldest sailor in the laser fleet when I was coming through as a kid, but he still hiked a lot harder than me, so unfortunately I saw a lot of his transom.
You saw a lot of his transom.
That was not a euphemism.
You told me over the weekend that you know John, and I'd never heard it before, and we're going to introduce now to the FOSI, apparently, John's nickname, and that is what?
We always knew John as Jemmett, so J. Emmett. There's one word, yeah.
Jemmett.
J. Emmett, yeah.
John, is that your nickname?
I mean, I've been called worse.
Any other nicknames for him?
I don't have any more, no. I think, yeah, we always just knew John as a really, really good laser coach and really good sailor, so it was useful. We could ask questions of John in the boat park when we had a question, so yeah, I like John.
Well, that's nice. Jeez. Could have been.
He said something else.
Okay, well, John, I got one more picture. We're just, Matt, we're going through his sailing club, the Weirwood Sailing, his home sailing club, not where he currently sails now, of course, in Weymouth at Castle Cove. I like this. I've finished with this. I have one other slide from your club, but this, to me, was the whole thing on your club's website.
That's my mate Matt, who's literally sailing with their kids now. I mean, it does make me feel quite old, but at the same time, it's really, really nice to see. And there's going to be some really good kids coming through soon, really good kids. So you've got people like Robert Scheitz, son, Chris Draper's son, all the rest of it. Simon Hiscock's daughter, etc.
And they're all sailing at this Weir Wood Sailing Club?
Oh, sorry, that's a few different names, but
so they're sailing at Castle Cove, you mean?
Yeah, well, all over the shop, and all.
I see. I get it.
The best one is Strew. He named his kid with the middle name Danger.
Okay, well, I've got a little bit of an announcement here that we'll do live on this show. Is that speaking of kids, the first thing is the marriage, is a wedding. And we want to congratulate Maddie, who's getting married on March 28th. So just in a week and a half.
Yeah.
Married to a gal we've gotten to know down. Matt's a Gov Cup alum, right?
Yes, that's how we met, Tom.
And that's how we originally met Matt. 3, 4, 5 years ago?
2017, so quite a long time now.
And you're getting married on the 28th.
Yes.
To the lovely Emma.
Yep.
Is she a sailor?
She likes expensive things. She's more into horses than boats, but she likes sailing. She just doesn't like the cold, so she can only sail in Southern California.
Well, you better stay in SoCal. Don't come. And then she's, after you get married, she's in fact coming here in the next day or so to interview for law school here in San Francisco.
Yeah, she's going to go to law school in the fall, so she's got offers from multiple schools in California. So she's assessing which one is going to be best for her and her career and her interests. So, yeah, a lot of big decisions coming up for her. Okay, so we'll put Jon in the shot here. Jon, any tips? You've gotten married to actually your mentee, whom you coached to a gold medal in 2012. And any hot tips here for Matt before he gets married in a couple of weeks?
Well, when Lily... when I was coaching Lily, she didn't really like me much because I gave her a hard time. So I think it's much later than that. I mean, I know a few people with horses and boats, and they're two very expensive hobbies. I mean, Matt, remember Steve Cockrell, I think, back in the day. I feel, because he married a horse lady, but I feel bad when he said Jon was always happy to answer questions in the boat park, because I felt bad this weekend because one of the young lads came up to me, and I think he might be a star for the shoot, and he said, "Well, what do you think, Jon?" And he got me at quite a grumpy moment. I just went, "Oh, my shoulder really hurts." He wasn't very impressed. So I'll try and carry on being super friendly to the youth. But I think it's just makes me feel old, because I remember you guys when you were all teenagers. It doesn't seem that long ago.
Well, I could say a few things here about age, but we won't get into it since we're celebrating Julia's 85th. Jon, just one more. Go ahead, Julia.
Mere children.
Mere children, indeed. Jon, one more slide from that club. I don't know if a lot of British clubs do this. I don't see too many American clubs doing this publicly. I see it being done privately. For example, Julia, on the St. Francis Yacht Club website, you'll see these names and a contact, an email contact, and what they do. But this is public on this club's website, which I thought was fantastic. Is that a common feature, Jon, of clubs in the UK?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, pretty much. And the clubs, most of the clubs, the very vast majority of clubs, it's all volunteer run. All volunteer.
Right.
I can't believe how much some people will put into the club. I mean, just since I last went, they've literally put in, things to padlock your bicycle to, and put lockers, and redone the road, and repainted all the boats, and taken all the pontoons off the water, putting them all back, and that's just volunteers. And I feel really bad because I've just been in sunnier climates and come back and all the work's done. But yeah, I think we have a really strong. I guess it's like the volunteer ethics. People like to do it, although it does tend to be more towards the retired, the older population who does it. Because I had a conversation with Lily, and she said, "Yeah, we have volunteers in China, lots of volunteers. They get paid." And I'm like, "No, that's not a volunteer."
Well, Julia, maybe we can get some. We pushed hard to get people to put the names of the skipper and the crew in the captions under the photos at regattas, their countries maybe. And that seems to be happening more and more.
Yes.
This Etchells, we're going to do the Etchells Worlds Report in a moment, and they've done a brilliant job down there. Maybe that's Alistair Murray's good influence. So it's coming good. Maybe this public showing of club officials on the website, so that not just the members but non-members can see it. Maybe they know somebody.
Volunteers.
We all hide our members list. We don't want people to know who's members of St. Francis or even Beach Street Yacht Club. Why not? Matt, what do you think?
I think there's a different culture with yacht clubs in the UK, as John was saying, is that it's a lot more part of the community, and it's like the yacht club I was a member of growing up, Penarth. My whole family's membership was like £150 for the year, so give or take $200. So I think it's a lot more of a communal, everyone's accessible sort of atmosphere around clubs. So yeah, and whereas like, for example, we're at the St. Francis at the weekend, and the staff are amazing. They do so much that volunteer clubs can't do. But I think it's definitely a different dynamic where in the UK it is, hey, come on, join us, see if you like it, and then come on in. Whereas, in America, there's a lot more upfront fees. So slightly different model of yacht club to sailing club, I think, is a little bit different.
Well, there can be no question that the barrier to entry, a big part of the barrier to entry in this country, we keep talking about it, to sailing, is the cost or the perceived cost.
Yeah. There are those
initiation fees and the cost. I mean, when we were young, we could have barely, but we could afford a boat. We could,
you could have. I could.
Well, but, yeah, okay. I had help from my family and so on, and the culture, and I wasn't spending money on horses or other than Clayton Embley is making. But the point being that it was a lot easier to afford a boat in the 70s than it is now. I mean, Meg, who's 32, who's older than Matt by what, 4 years, Matt?
5 years, yeah.
So she's just gotten married. She's got a car. She and her husband have a car, maybe even two, but they've got a car. Trying to buy a house. Yeah, have to have a car in California, in Southern California. And before they can think about buying a boat, it's OPBs, it's other people's boats, and it's tough these days. And that's why we were talking the other day about how more and more clubs are getting club-owned boats to help members get into those boats, like this J22 fleet over at St. Francis.
And the other advantage, and I often say this, you can learn to sail and sail well and be valuable to somebody who has a boat and wishes they had great crew available. And you can literally, as I did for a long time, sail a lot without belonging to a club.
Well, that's the other part of the problem, is there just are fewer. I mean, I'm from a family of 5.
Yeah.
Matt's got a brother. You have any siblings, John? What do you have for siblings?
No, only me. And obviously Lily's only her. But yeah.
But the point being that the families are a lot smaller than they were. I mean, we weren't Catholic, we weren't Mormon, and we were it was before the pill, and that made a big difference.
Yeah.
My mother had 7 kids in 10 years.
I know.
It's unbelievable. But the families are smaller, therefore crews and extra hands and so on. What do you think, Matt?
I definitely think, like, my dad, when he got into sailing, he sailed through his high school. That doesn't exist in the UK anymore. A lot of people could have, on relatively modest salaries, like my grandfather was able to build a mirror that you could put on top of your car. That was kind of how it was sold to the mass markets in the 70s. I'm sure John knows the advertising campaign I'm mentioning there, where anyone could buy it. You could take your car, you could go away with a Mini Cooper, and you could put your mirror on top, and you'd have a weekend sailing. And he got inspired by that, but he wasn't very good at woodwork, so he had to buy one. But it was a lot cheaper for him to do it. And I think realistically, my parents were lucky that the yacht club we were a member of, they had a couple of optimists, which I was able to do. So my parents never had to buy me a boat growing up, which was very lucky, because one of the people at the yacht club, a guy called Laurie Pavlin, was very, very, very forward and turned around to everyone and said, we've got a young sailor whose parents are lifelong members of this yacht club, and we want them to be able to take him and introduce him to sailing and raise a little bit of money from a yacht club fund and from a local council grant, which bought me my first boat, which I probably wouldn't have sailed if that hadn't have happened. So I think I was very lucky to get into it without having to buy a boat. And then I was addicted, so my parents then obviously had that was a bad decision for them. They spent a lot of money in my teenage years, and
Yeah.
so I think I got very lucky, and there's not that many ways that people get boats bought for them, but like I'm 27 now, and I'm not even thinking about buying a boat. I'm thinking, like you said with Meg, is whose boat do I sail on? And like this weekend we did match racing. I don't need to buy a boat for that. Yes, I'm going to pay an entry fee. But I pay, I think it was $105 a person, which to do anything on the West Coast, if you want to go out to dinner, you can spend best part of $100 anyway. So, for me, that's good value, which if the St. Francis didn't have boats, I wouldn't have been sailing here on the bay this weekend.
Clark Chapin saying, I just looked, and a new Ilka 7 is $9,700, 90 US dollars, 97, almost 10 grand. And a Melgus 15 is 15 grand and change. But then an inexpensive new car is inexpensive new car is just 20 grand. So boats have gotten expensive, and we have this discussion. And I have a feeling the UK and Australia and New Zealand, to name three, and maybe France as well, have done a better job with the culture. And maybe it's just nothing that the national governing body has been able to do. Maybe it's just the culture of the country or the culture of the people. But the U.S., this is what U.S. sailing should be doing, is helping to drive down the cost of participation, the barrier to entry, jawboning people left, right, and center, like happened in the 60s when, as I assert, the Kennedys started sailing, and their pictures showed up all over the magazines and even television back in that day. And until we do that in the U.S., we know Alistair and the Aussies are doing that. Okay, John, final thoughts to you on this topic before we leave? This topic?
Yeah, I mean, both Weirwood and Castle Cove, they have a fleet of club boats. I mean, I think there's probably half a dozen club Ilkas in Weirwood, which you just turn up and it's a peppercorn fee to use them. And I sort of tend to donate bits and whatnot. And it makes it very accessible that people can do the sort of pay to play model. I just think that in terms of sailing, we're competing against a lot of other sports. We have to make ourselves as accessible as possible. And those club boats, I really think, make a big difference.
Yeah, Clark Chapin making the point, or Steve Gruber actually making the point in response to Clark's comment, you can get a Thistle, which is a 16, almost 17-foot boat here, popular one design class here in the U.S., particularly in the Northeast. You can get a Thistle that needs some work, and some in the Southwest. You can get a Thistle that needs some work to be competitive for 6K, and the 19-foot bathtub that I used to race in, the Flying Scot, glass, is indestructible. It weighs 750 pounds, something like that, a 19-foot boat, which you could build today for a couple hundred pounds. But this winter, and maybe this is the good news of what we see here in our country, is that you can get a good second-hand boat or third-hand or fourth-hand boat. And the Flying Scot class just had their midwinters down in, can't remember if it was Florida or it was someplace down in the Gulf Coast or in that area. And they had 88 boats, a record. And they were going to limit it to 60 or 70, and then more people said they want to come. They said, okay, we'll limit it to 80. And then the 88 people showed up, and they said, come on, and we'll figure out a way to accommodate you here at this club. So maybe that's also an answer, and some good news for our sport here is that there is second and third hand boats. There are second and third hand boats for not too much. Yeah, forget about horses.
Yeah.
Or ice hockey early in the morning is our FOSI Rick Banneros, which I did in my life. Flying Scots at Lake Eustis. Cost of a new Scot, Clark Chapin would say, the new Scot is almost 30 grand, and you could buy one for 10 grand when I was growing up, maybe less. Okay, enough about all that. Interesting comment. A lot of people on here watching. Welcome to some new names I haven't seen. Bob Hauserman, David Nation, and many others of you who have joined us live on this. We're, as usual, we're about an hour and 10 minutes into our regular Tuesday and Friday podcast, live video podcast, webcast called Sailing Illustrated. My co-host Julia Vedekint is here alongside me. As always, we've just celebrated her 85th birthday yesterday. Happy birthday, Julia.
Amazing.
Happy and happy as
Yeah,
well.
happy.
Andrew Pindar gets the final comment on this. The World Sailing Trust, chaired by Dee Kafari and managed by Victoria Lowe, is working hard on the whole topic of diversity, equity, and inclusion. Accessibility is vital for a popular sport or a potentially, a what?
Oh, potentially.
A potentially popular one.
Yeah.
Okay, Peggy Lidster loves the discussion. Jonathan Frank down in Texas, I have to be willing to break down the socioeconomic barrier. We have to be willing to break down the socioeconomic barriers that preclude kids from participating in our sport. I think one other thing we have to do, guys and gals, is we have to still, at least in this country, and maybe, John, that's what your squad system, I was thinking while you were articulating that, maybe it's the squad system that helps keep kids in the sport. Because here, the kids go through the club junior programs, and then they get to be teenagers, and the club junior programs start racing 420s, and they get super competitive, and the kids go off to high school and college, and if there's no high school sailing particularly, the kids leave the sport.
Yeah, lose them.
That we lose them, and they don't come back. What do you think about that, Jon Emmett?
I mean, I think you're always going to have a little gap. I don't know exactly what age you want to say that is, but I always think university age, where people go away and then hopefully come back. Ideally, they come back as soon as possible. I mean, I've bumped into quite a few people at the weekend in the boat park who I raced against as a youth. They've probably had approximately 25 years out, and they're now coming back. Their kids are racing as youths. But the squad system definitely works both ways. So you've got the social aspects. So you're going out racing with your mates, and you have that, you know, they're really good friends. Some people, they know each other from optimists, cadets, lasers, and then they go on to something else. And then you've got the drive. So, you know, as much as they're all good mates, they all really want to beat each other. And that means that, you know, the more they, for lack of a better word, fight, and the more they train and push each other, the better they get to when they get there. But the accessibility is a big thing. And with Castle Cove, I think I spelt it wrong, but we have a little fleet of sonatas. They're really slow keelboats. They're nearly as slow as me in the Ilka. But everyone's got an old one. They're all under, I think most of them are a few £100 actually. But it's one design racing, and they have a cracking time and really close series on a Wednesday. And they're gutted if they can't meet. And then everyone stays and has a beer and a dinner and a chat afterwards. And much as I love the Academy for training, I wouldn't be exaggerating too much to say I think Castle Cove, it's half the price per pint, you know, and that makes a very big difference to the feel. But yeah, there's very little bad about the squad, apart from it obviously means some people may have to travel a bit more, but you do buy into that. The reason the Olympic Games was at Weymouth is because, you know, it's a very good place to sail. We lose more days from too much wind rather than not enough. So maybe it is worth spending an extra 2 hours in the car to make sure that you're going to get a really decent sailing weekend.
I have a feeling the squad concept, we've got to think some more about that, particularly here in the U.S. As Baton Rouge, Baton Kennan, who's his real name, he's in Charleston. It seems in the U.S. the big events, the North American events are still big, but the local events are smaller, making the sport more expensive because to race in bigger fleets, you have to travel. But I'm also wondering, Julia, if part of the problem is that at St. Francis Yacht Club, for example, it's the racing team that becomes the squad, not so much just all the kids that are sailing. I wonder if the squad ought to be everybody in the junior sailing. This is what they do at Balboa Yacht Club down in SoCal. I mean, you're a part of that thing. You're a part of the Balboa Yacht Club junior program, the squad, the team, whether you race or not, whether you win or not. What do you think, Matt? Is that something, you know Balboa Yacht Club, you know St. Francis. You've been living here in the States now for a couple of years up in Seattle. Mm-hmm. Are we excluding kids or disappointing? Are we fending or inadvertently fending kids off by not being more inclusive with them in the local program? Hey, you're a member of the St. Francis Yacht Club squad.
Yeah, like I think the thing that I think is hardest with sailing is you don't really do it unless your parents do it. So if you're going to then exclude people because they're not willing to be as committed, because someone might love tennis and be really good at tennis and their high school takes up 4 nights a week of tennis, so they can't do as much sailing. So if you're not going to be then able to do sailing on the weekends, you're going to get pushed out of the sport. So I think it's kind of one of those things which it works both ways, because you're not going to get the elite races and the high-end competition if you don't have some kind of hierarchy. You're going to need to put the good people in the same place. So, yeah, I don't really know what the solution is. I wish I'd probably be a lot better at sailing admin if I did have the solution. But I think definitely you need to make sure that there's more people going sailing, and you don't want to make it hard for someone to join. I think one of the things is that I think would be a good policy is yacht clubs having pretty much free membership for under 18s, even if their parents aren't members, because then anyone's friend off the street can come and join and be involved, and they might might like sailing in the longer term. And I think, from my understanding, everyone that I know in America who has sailed as a kid whose parents didn't sail, they got into it by having a 10-week summer camp with friends, whether that's in New England, Texas, anywhere. They got into sailing because they had 10 weeks and they made some friends and went, I really want to go back next year. So to me, that seems like a good way of doing it. However, you've got to get to the yacht club every day for 10 weeks, which is not necessarily what everyone can do.
Julia, we let kids in the St. Francis at no charge for the junior, or maybe there's a charge for the junior program.
$25 or something, yeah.
But you don't have to join the junior program, right? You can be a kid from any high school. You can be red, white, black,
sailing,
yellow, green.
High school sailing is
right.
Yeah, but they're now wanting some cohesiveness too, and there's now a junior Commodore, and they're beginning to get a group self-recognition and a voice louder than they had before about what they need and what they're doing. And I think everybody knows if there's a boy and a girl and on a boat,
You got Emmett guffawing now. A boy and a girl and a what?
A boat.
A boat.
I mean,
well, that's what Paul Henderson always said.
Right.
The boys go where the girls are, and vice versa.
Right.
And if you don't have girls in the junior programs and having fun and part of the whole program, then it's going to fall apart.
And when the girls begin to win, that's really troublesome. So we have to correct that, right?
Well, I think it's great. Okay, Jon Emmett, let's wrap up your. Go ahead. Then I want to get to your book.
Yeah, I think Paul Goodison said something quite suitably politically incorrect about that, about light winds and what happens if there was a mixed offshore keel boat and all the rest of it. But we can, I think, be backtracked on that. But no, it's interesting with the videos I do. I try.
Hey, just excuse me, Jon. I'm sorry. Just think how interesting that video we played at the top of the show with the Irish commentator would have been if instead of it being Ilka's, it was offshore double-handed boats at night. That Irish guy could have had a field day. He could have had a blast with a video. In fact, maybe we should do one. Maybe we should find somebody like you or Matt Whitfield, somebody to emulate that. Matt, we played that video, that Irish commentator video at the top of the show in honor of St. Patrick's Day yesterday. And we should get somebody to do that. We'll get Jody Shields to do it.
Oh, that would be good.
And to go commentate on a double-handed race somewhere. What are they doing now? Jody Shields. He's last. Okay, back, Jon, to you seriously.
In terms of what Julia said, I mean, I do it with the Ilka UK videos where I try and do a mix of people. Otherwise, you'd more or less just be interviewing the top sailor every time. Right. We've actually got it in the Ilka Fours that Jess, who's the topper national champion, just moved into Ilka Four. I mean, she's just winning everything, and now I feel sorry that the males aren't getting interviewed. I think if she gets big enough, she'd definitely be a talent for the future. It's always hard to draw a line in the sand, but I think there's two separate things. So the first one, and you can define it however you want, but the first one is when the kids are young, your goal as a coach is just to make sure they really want to come back next weekend. Doesn't really matter how much they take away, but you want them to come back next weekend. And when you start teaching people to sail, you end up being, if you like, an instructor. By the time you get to the Olympic stuff, you're a coach and just a feedback ball. But at the beginning, it's about just making sure they enjoy it. And if you push too hard or make it unpleasant, they will go and do another sport. When you get to the elite end, and you have the squad and you're just facilitating, because those guys will push themselves real hard. And actually, if you can just make sure you give them food, water, set a course, video every single start, so they don't have a minute wasted time, so they can do a 2-hour session in 2 hours, not 4 hours, and then go for a bike ride, then go to the gym, then do a course session, and then answer their emails, they'll be happy. But it's two things. And the grassroots, and however you want to define it, is about being fun and come back. And then you have the performance side. And you can tell when sailors are ready to move off. They will make it pretty clear either way. You know, maybe they're quite happy playing pirates and just capsizing all the time. And you don't know when that switch will change. But, you know, that's why it's horses for courses. And that's why I'm, you know, for the last 20 years, I've been a coach rather than an instructor. But I think, you know, I know really good sailors who've been put off because it hasn't been fun, or they've been told they won't be big enough, or they'll be too big, or whatever. And the main job is actually just to remove the barriers and let them get on with it.
Okay, now we have a very interesting question here from Mr. Dr. Andrew McIrvin, another one of our super FOSIs. About time we get him back on here if his back is in good enough shape that he can sit with us for an hour in one place, the poor guy. Should we, and by the way, just as in terms of the setup, Andrew has got yet another job. I think I mentioned this on the, Matt, on the show the other day. He is now been asked by the RORC to chair the Admirals Cup Advisory Committee. You know, he's the Secretary General of the International Maxi Association, and yada, yada, any number of other things. But he's chairing now with some esteemed, he's already appointed a bunch of good sailors from around the world to this group, the advisory panel for the RORC for the next Admirals Cup. And he is asking, should we mandate juniors and females for teams in regattas such as the Admirals Cup? And we're doing it a little bit. We're doing it a little bit for Sail GP, and we are doing it for Sail GP. We've got arguably the best female sailor in the world, Hannah Mills. We hope we talked about this in the last show, she take the wheel. Should we mandate juniors, not just females, but juniors, for teams and regattas such as the Admirals Cup? John?
I think the short answer is yes. It's a real shame that you have to do it. But I think the short answer is yes, to get the ball rolling. And then I hope within my lifetime, in 20 years' time, you won't have to do that. So at the America's Cup or whatever, it will just be the best, should I say driver? The best driver is driver. It doesn't matter whether it's male or female. But sometimes to get over that initial hurdle, like to mandate and give the young sailors a foot in the door to showcase their talent. I mean, you look at how good the young Italians were. Unfortunately, I think it's a necessary evil. And actually, the short answer is yes.
Matt,
just to get over.
Thanks, John.
I think there's no difference between a male or a female sailor. Like, I think I've sailed with girls, I've sailed with boys, and different people have different skill sets. It's more on the person. So I don't think it makes any difference to the performance of the boat. It doesn't make any difference to what you do. So I think the rules instituting that you have to have female sailors or junior sailors would be good ideas. My only concern is we were just talking about participation. And if you mandate and people then can't turn up because they're, say, like, for example, one of the guys I was going to sail with this weekend, he unfortunately had a family health issue, so he was unable to make it. So if you're limiting who you would be able to replace it by, it might make it harder for some people to come to some events at times. But I think there's a net positive gain, so I think it's good. I think you should make sure, but I don't think there should be any benefit to having someone on. So that I know in the Volvo they did the rule where you get more if you have a girl. I don't think that should really come into the context, because then it starts becoming you have to play a chess game on that.
But should it be mandated?
I think it should be you have to have X number of people, and it would be at least one boy and one girl and one under 25, because in our sport, anything under 25 or 30.
Yeah, Andrew Pindar is making just that point. He's saying the ocean race went through the agony of this debate now and ended up mandating. Thank goodness they did, as this is now virtually unquestionable. RC44s are doing it. The 52 Super Series is not doing it. Andrew McIrvin, our other Andrew FOSI, is observing. And Clark Chapin makes a very good point, I think, up above. Aren't the crew, I'm Steve Groover, I'm sorry, aren't the crew mandates, gender and age, part of the appeal of New York Yacht Club's IC37 class? Matt.
One of my friends is thinking of chartering one next year, so I'm hoping that I'm able to go to New York quite a lot next year, or at Newport quite a lot next year. So I don't want to say anything bad yet. I think one of the key things as well is not making it too expensive, and I think on top of that, the Corinthian rules as well are pretty important, because I think with the IC37s, there's a very strict amount of pros that you're allowed on, if any. I'm not 100%.
I think it used to be 1, and it may have gone now to 0.
Yeah, because I think one of the things to make sailing events fun is that you want to do it with your friends. Whereas if you turn up and you want to sail with your friends, and you guys will have jobs, you're just not quite as competitive. The boat's not going to be quite as polished if you have pro crews. So I think that's another thing and it keeps the cost of it down, which ultimately is a limiting factor. Like, we were at Bacardi Cup last week in the J70s, and there was 50 crews, and there was, I think, 9 Corinthian teams. So it just means that it makes the racing really competitive. Every team is really on it, but it means that we turned up, we got a red eye, and we were a bit tired on the first day. So it's just very, very hard to have fun if you're just basically being sailed around by people who are just a little bit more polished than you, people that we raced against in college that we were the same standard as, etc. They're just so much more polished and right on it. So I think that's another thing which, if you're going to mandate, I think Corinthianism is a very good thing about our sport, and it's the part of the sport I personally like.
Okay, well, we're getting some other comments on the other side of this issue. We discuss this a lot on this show, and I'm glad we do. But let's wrap it up there, if we may, because I got half an hour or so left on the show. We try to end in what, Julia? We try to do this in a couple hours.
Right.
And we've got some other topics to cover, but a very interesting discussion, you all. Thank you very much.
Yes, indeed.
And something we should talk about probably on this show, Julia, some more.
Yes.
Don't you think?
Absolutely.
With maybe we need to turn on the Zoom and have a broader audience sometime, broader people that can come on live and comment, such as the Andrews, such as Clark, such as any number of other of the FOSI. Okay. John, a final comment from you in this segment on your book. We've been celebrating it here on the show over the last week or so. Tell us about your book.
Well, I mean, it was originally written by Tim, I think it was 45 years ago. And the class is absolutely massive, but it's amazing how long it's taken to improve. So I was having a chat today with Selden about trying to get us booms that stay a little bit straighter. But again, it's just about making the sport more accessible. And, I think that the Ilka really, really fulfills that. So I think if I can help, just 2 or 3 people have a nicer time on the water. When you work with club sailors, you can feel like a fantastic coach, because they start the day unable to jibe in light winds without putting the main sheet round the back, or they start the day unable to go downwind in 22 knots without swimming, and you manage to, solve a real problem. Whereas when you work with the Olympic athletes, sometimes you can train for an entire week, you end up sailing worse than you started because they ended up a little bit overtrained. But yeah, it was really nice to do that project, and I hope it will help a lot of people.
Andrew Pindar, final comment from the FOSI. Andrew Pindar saying the Magenta Project would love to he's a trustee of that group, of course, or it was last I knew, would love to participate in such a Sailing Illustrated Zoom debate.
Oh, good.
So we should do that,
Yeah.
Julia. And this is a good time for you to remind everybody vis-a-vis the comments.
Yes, take this opportunity to read all the comments, the ones you heard and the ones you didn't hear, because there are really good ideas floating through all that.
Indeed. Jon Emmett, can you stay, or can you go? Or do you have to go? Can you stay? I know it's only the time zones are favorable at the moment.
I'll definitely stay, and I do wish I'd squeezed in time to have a shower and have something to eat, because I'm a bit itchy.
Well,
but you can't smell me through the camera, so it's all good.
Thank goodness. But go grab a glass and grab something, a bite, and come back and sit down in front of your. Okay, so let's press on, and thank Jon very much for that segment.
And congratulate him.
And congratulate him, Julia,
on his
new book and heading to Shanghai to see his wife.
And how he ended up in the Ilkas. He was
second in that qualifying regatta. So I guess that means he gets to go to the Worlds and wherever they are, Adelaide or Argentina, I can't remember.
Yeah.
We normally have this. This is a segment in lieu of Jon's regular reportage. As most of you will know, he comes on here every show, virtually every show, and gives us the coach's corner, we call it, whether it's about physiology or staying fit or mentally fit or whatever's going on in the Olympic world. We didn't talk so much about that, Jon. Maybe we can here going forward. Let's do that right now before we forget, before we get off the Olympics too much. Jon, tell us in a nutshell, give us the elevator pitch on what remains in Olympic classes regattas before the top sailors who have qualified end up in Marseille for the Olympics.
Right, I attended the team leaders meeting very recently, and I forget exactly, but I think over 80% of the places have gone. So now it really is the last chance regatta at Hyères, and that's the last chance for people to qualify. And a lot of countries will be using that, if they've already got the spot, to decide which sailor goes. I mean, we've got under 6 months to go. So for those top performers, it's not about winning a medal now, it's about not losing it. So it's staying injury-free, illness-free, and just keeping as sharp as possible. It's the sprint to the finish. But that last chance regatta will be one to watch, and I just pray the weather gods are looking at the air very, very kindly.
And when is the air?
So it's April. Just trying to think off the top of my head, roughly the last 2 weeks of April. Most people are on their way to Palma for the Princess Sophia Regatta, and I suspect we could have some of the top sailors doing keel who feel they've been a little bit under raced this year before heading to Marseille. The interesting thing about Marseille, World Sailing was actually reaching out to the team leaders, trying to get M&As to help tell the story in terms of video content. So they are really aware how important it is to tell the story of sailing and to showcase sailing. That's one of the criteria we're measured. And I think the rules will be a little bit more relaxed. I can't remember what the specific rule number is, but the rules for what can be broadcast during the games, I think people will be able to do their own vlogs and things this time, which is only a good thing, because we need to look at the athletes and tell the story.
And the ILCA Worlds, is this the Masters Worlds or the everything?
We've had it all.
And it's I know, but you say it's in China next year.
Yes.
Both the regular Worlds and the Masters Worlds.
The 6 and the 7. So the Olympic class World Championships will be in China next year. I think the Masters or the one will be in Kiel, and I think the Masters is in Italy, but it's a very long way away. It seems funny, we've done 2 Worlds and the Europeans.
Yeah.
Just the whole season's already ended, which is why I sort of pushed through with various little injuries. But in terms of Olympic sailing, well, the last chance regatta is really the one to watch.
Coming up next month.
If you want to know who to look for Brisbane, I would check out the Youth Worlds this year, because that's roughly the lag.
Okay, well, thanks, John, for that, and thanks, Maddie. You can stay as well.
Yep.
You're not in a rush to get. Okay, good. Let's press on now with the Etchells. I'll give you an update because this is a fabulous regatta going on down in Perth. On I guess it's in the Swan River. I don't know if they're sailing outside or not, or maybe some a little bit of each, as they sometimes do in Newport, Rhode Island, or in San Diego. Not here in San Francisco. We sail in the bay, rarely outside unless it's an offshore race out around the Farallones Islands. But let's get to the Etchells Worlds in Frio. It wraps up on Friday. And the second day of racing, which was today, Tuesday, it's now Wednesday morning down there, saw a big change in conditions and bigger gains across the scoreboard. 2 more races were completed, this time in 15 to 20 knots. They've finished 4 races now. 15 to 20 knot easterly with flatter water and slightly longer courses. On day 1, race officer Ross Wilson said a 1.6 nautical mile course. There's 40 plus boats, 40 boats, I guess, while today he opted for 1.7. I wish classes in their press releases, sorry, Etchells class, I'm going to be mildly critical. We don't want to hear about the weather until the 4th or 5th paragraph. Tell us who's leading. After a general recall and then a start under a black flag, yada, yada, people had to sit on the sideline, yada, yada, there's some names, some crews, but yet we want to hear who's leading. 4th paragraph, race 3 saw Magpie, Graham Taylor, James Mayo, and Richard Allenson swoop in and steal the win. Now, they won the pre-worlds, and they're a favorite, pushing them further up the leaderboard after a 5th in race 1 and an 11th in race 2 on the opening day of the competition. We still don't know who's leading, and it's not these guys. This is of whom we were just speaking, Graham Taylor, James Mayo, and Richard Allenson from Australia. And then this guy, they put these pictures in the press release, bless their hearts, and they're not. This is one of my best friends sailing in this event, longtime friend Mark Squark Bradford, sailing Pie. So the other one was Magpie. This one's just plain Pie. Mark Bradford, Will McCarthy, Anthony Nossiter, and they're in the I think 5th or 6th place. We'll look at the results in a moment. But look at this fabulous. They're releasing a video every day. And I haven't seen a video this good from any regatta in memory. Watch and enjoy.
Sivvy swears a lot and yells. I think the new language that I'm learning is going to help me on the open skiff. I sail the open skiff in Napier. We go to a few regattas every year, and Dad knew all of them and told them that I was pretty good and they wanted me. Occasionally I give them a few tactical tips along the course. My position on board is I do all the hiking. It was pretty windy, wet and wild. There was a few near crashes and a few port starboards.
No, we had a great day. Dean McCauley in the centre and Nick Gray up the front. Boat was in good shape, had plenty of boat speed. It was shifting sort of 15 degrees every 3 or 4 minutes out there. So you just had to take advantage of the shifts, and we were lucky enough to get on the right side of more than the other boats. I think we're feeling pretty lucky to be in that spot. And I think we'll just keep our heads down and try and keep out of trouble for the next few races, not break any starts, which I would typically do in a championship, and just have some fun. Everyone knows how to sail in the conditions. Maybe just slightly, we've sailed a lot into this easterly breeze. It's shifting 15 to 20 knots, 15 to 20 degrees, and we may not doubt ourselves as much as some of the others who are from elsewhere. So maybe the doubt factor's a bit lower. Doesn't mean you get it right.
How cool. How cool is that video, you guys?
Yeah.
Huh?
Yeah.
All the kids out there stand your ground and tell the adults where to go.
You're amazing.
And I knew that. I saw that. Sorry, I cut him off. He is amazing. And by the way, I did look to see where they are on. The boat's called Flying Higher. And Jean-Claude Strong's Seve Martin, he was referring to, I guess, at the top of that video, Sam Newton and Max Jamieson. And they're in, 27th place out of 40. But this kid was, sign him up.
Yeah.
Julia?
Yeah.
Sign him up for the show.
Yeah. Let's do
Maybe Alistair Murray can get him on here. There's the results. The top 15, I wanted to get down to see where Laurie Smith, who's struggling a bit, and they're counting
22. 13.
He's 13th. Yeah, Laurie's in 13th, and they're still counting all the races. There are some throwouts, but so far there's no throwouts in the scoreboard. I zoom in here, and you can see that the actual winner is leader is Graham Viles, Billy Russell, Andrew Lawson, a British boat. And then some of the teams we've been talking about. Squark, Mark is in 7th. Mark Bradford and co. Well, a good team he's got with him. No surprise. And on down to Laurie Smith and John Bertrand in 10th. Laurie in 13th. Just some of the other. Scott Kaufman, there's another big name, the American, there in 12th. So there's a lot of very good sailors at the Etchells Worlds in Perth, and we'll follow that. It wraps on Friday, so we should have the final results on our show on Friday. Gents, any final comments on all that before we go to this day in history? Happy?
I think the people, the Brits who are leading, I believe they're all Corinthian sailors as well, which is pretty rare in the Etchells class to be as competitive without having. Well, you look at the names, and it's half the names of things that have done amazing things in world sailing in the last 20 to 40 years. So I think that's impressive, in my opinion.
Okay, yeah, Laurie's had a BFD, Clark Chapin has mentioned. He got black flag, Jon Emmett is mentioning. Okay, let's carry on here to this day in history. Do you know, any of you, what we're celebrating on this 19th of March? I'm sure you did the research and went and looked to see what happened on this day throughout history and see which one did Eamon pick. I'll give you a clue. It's 1882. Julia, any idea? What happened on this day in history? You didn't do the research.
No, I didn't. But is it
I don't blame you. 1882.
In France?
No. Close. On the Iberian Peninsula, I'll give you that.
Sort of close.
Do you recognize that gentleman? Any of you recognize the gentleman?
I have no idea.
Any of our FOSI recognize the gentleman? The Minnetonka Yacht Club was founded. No. Blake Middleton? No, that's not the case. I'll give you another clue. He's an architect, famously good architect named Antoni Gaudi. Spanish.
Yes.
He was born the year after AC0 in 1852 and lived until he died tragically in 1926. Any idea what his most famous project?
In Barcelona.
And this is for architects.
Yeah.
This is for your brother, Matt.
Yeah.
He was in architecture school getting his master's degree over.
Yeah, half of Barcelona pretty much was built by him or designed by him.
Well done. Carry on, Professor.
I want to say
Gordon Smith.
Familia.
Gordon Smith is close too. Keep going, Matt.
Is it Sagrada Familia?
Well done. Julie Aarons almost got it. She said the Sahara Familia. Maybe her spell checker changed it. Yes, the Sagrada Familia. Well done. And there it is in all its glory. And this was Gaudi's most famous work. And I thought we should celebrate this since the Cup's going to be in Barcelona later this year. If you haven't been in this place, and you're going, as Julie Aarons is, you're going to Barcelona. She's got her plane tickets now. Stingray is going to Barcelona. You got to go see this. Gaudi's most famous work is the Sagrada Familia, a basilica in Barcelona, and now one of the symbols of that city.
But never finished.
Correct. Designed in an organic Gothic style to resemble a forest, it was begun, a forest. In 1882 it was begun, and is still under construction. Julia, as usual, you're right. I say that even though it's, yesterday was your birthday, not today. Its planned completion date, I did not know this, is 2026. It'll probably take another decade after that. The 100th anniversary of Gaudi's own death. So there you have it. Well done, you all that came up with it. What is the difference, Gordon Smith is asking, between a basilica and a cathedral? Think about that while we tell you that it was the first stone was actually laid. So construction began on this date in 1882 for the Sagrada Familia Basilica in Barcelona, designed by Antoni Gaudi. Gaudi, I guess you'd pronounce that. What's the difference between a basilica and a cathedral? Does anybody know?
Is a basilica Catholic and Protestant is a cathedral?
I think it's the other way around, maybe. Permits and final inspections by the city building department will probably add another decade. Clark. Gesundheit.
Yeah.
John, any idea what the difference is? Somebody will research for us and get that here on Architecture Illustrated.
Graham Sweeney says, I thought Gaudi didn't finish the design, so they've been making it up ever since.
Yeah, there's been some controversy, as the Brits would say, as you Brits would say, about all that. And exactly right. Okay. Let's get to the America's Cup, because we do have some America's Cup action here. A lot of discussion in the past, as Stingray and others, and probably Julie Ahrens will know, about the hydro, about the cyclors. And the Luna Rosa put out a video, which I'm not going to run because I knew the show was going to be longish today, but ETNZ put out an even better video. So for our AC37 Cup date, here is an update from the hydro team, including the cyclors at ETNZ.
The whole system on the boat, like the lifeline or the blood of the boat, is hydraulics and hydraulic oil. Most of the input comes from the sailing team. They need the control for the boat. And then that filters down through the mechatronics team, and then that comes down to the hydraulic department to produce the hardware on the boat in a working condition.
There's 3 different hydraulic systems in the boat. The cyclors that you see are powering pumps under the deck, and they're controlling the sail functions that change the shape of the sails and make the boat go faster, essentially. We've got the FCS system, which is a foil can system powered by batteries, and that's a one design component which all the teams have, and that's what you'll see in every manoeuvre where the boat's attacking and driving. And we've got the flight control system, which is the rake of the rudder, the flaps down underwater, and those are moving like an aeroplane wing as well.
We'd be one of the first people in to turn the boat on, fire up the hydraulics, do a quick visual test, and then pressure tests and check that the system's going to be functional for the entire day.
Daily inspections, maybe twice a day, just to make sure that there's no leaking.
Along with pre and post sail checks, you're always working on something else, testing and assembling manifolds, making new hoses, and yeah, just constantly changing on the boat. It's cool.
It's pretty unreal when you see them. I know how they work, but I still have to scratch myself when I see them flying. When I look at all the 40s there, we've been involved with those, and the can system on all of the 75s. The ultimate challenge at the end is winning the regatta. But on a day-to-day, it's that challenge of probably the biggest success is when the boat comes back and we just do our checks and everything's good, because then you know that all the modifications that you've been working on actually mean something, and you're progressing. And you go home and you go, that was a good day.
It's not always easy and it's not always fun. You appreciate just what we have here. We've got a good group of people that work hard and are aiming for the same goal.
You know, I could ask if that whole cycling hydro thing is correct or crutonic. And when we say hydro, they're talking about hydraulics, not hydro meaning the whole hull and deck, or the hull and the water package, the foils and so on. But let's get into that on another day. But it is, when you look at that, apropos, Matt, the things we were discussing at dinner the other night, you know, people don't relate to it because of things like this. They say is, hey, I saw that video about ETNZ's hydraulics and the cyclors and so on. Is that what you do? And they ask somebody at work around the water cooler, and people say, sorry, no, that's not what we do. Can't be bothered. And then the non-sailor goes away and says the same thing. Oh, that if my sailing buddy at work doesn't do that, I'm not going to look in on SailGP or so. Okay, so there's two sides of that story. Gordon Smith, a cathedral is connected to a bishop. A basilica is dedicated to a saint or other individual, but is related to religious buildings from the Roman period, apparently. And indeed, Andrew McIrvin, you can't have a cathedral unless you are in a city with a bishop. The Pope made a special deal to allow the Sagrada to be a basilica, as Barcelona already had a cathedral. Graham Sweeney, back on the topic we were just discussing. Module checks, hydro pressure checks, all before sailing. In my day, we rolled the covers off, slipped the dock lines, and opened the beer. Oh, bloody hell. Okay, I guess we have no other comments on that. Now we have another. I'm glad you're both still with us, Matt and John, because we have now the aforementioned, we promised for a week or so, Ed Worley's America's Cup History Challenge, the latest trivia quiz from Ed, our FOSI down in SoCal. And it involves the name of the America's Cup yacht designed for the first defense. After New York Yacht Club won it in 1851, the first defense was in 1870. And remember, there were a fleet of boats that defended on behalf of New York Yacht Club. They said, well, what was good for the goose is good for the gander. If the Royal Yacht Squadron can have a fleet of boats come out against our America, we'll have a fleet of boats come out against their challenger. What was the name of the first Cup yacht designed and built for the defense of the Cup?
What popped into my head was Columbia.
Was it, Steve Goober's already said Magic, because that was the winner in 1870. Julia's thinking Columbia. That's also a good thought. Was it Magic in 1870? Was it Pocahontas? You might not even think that's a real name. In 1881, was it Mayflower on 1886? Or Julia, was it your Columbia in 1899? And so far, the only answer, they're Googling away. You can hear them clicking up in Seattle, Stingray. Here is your first clue.
Oh, glory. Is that an M?
Alistair Murray thinks it was A. He agrees that he thinks it was Magic. Ryman thinks it was D, Columbia. Here's another clue. I don't know if you can make that out down there. This is the sloop yacht. Can you read that, Julia?
Pocahontas.
Pocahontas, which was B. Ed Worley, you got everybody today. Nobody got that. Pocahontas. Yeah, say again. John, did you say something? I heard something come in over my earbud here. The sloop yacht Pocahontas in 1881 was the first America's Cup yacht designed and built for the defense of the Cup. You'll ask why. Why was it not, as several of you suggested, Magic? There is Magic, New York Yacht Club's 1870 defender and winner. And as you will have surmised, she was not built to defend the Cup. She was built before the Cup. In fact, I think she was around way back. Indeed, after doing a little research.
1857, yeah.
It's a center. This is the centerboard schooner Magic, an actual photo from 1888. She was originally a sloop modeled by her first owner, Richard Fanning Loper, and built in 1857 at the T. Byerly and Son shipyard in Pennsylvania. Her later owner, Franklin Osgood, who's a famous New York Yacht Club major domo, had her entirely rebuilt, but not a new yacht. It was largely rebuilt in 1869 at the David Carl shipyard in New York prior to her successful defense of the 1870 Queen's Cup. She's pictured here in the 1888 Ogden Goulet Cup in Newport, Rhode Island. Now back to Pocahontas. If not Magic, why was Pocahontas the correct answer? Well, according to Ed Worley, to face the Canadian Challenge of 1881, in AC4. It wasn't until AC4 that New York built bespoke boats that defended. The New York Yacht Club had wanted to use Arrow, designed by David Kirby. Mr. Kirby, hearing of the needs of the club, agreed to build a boat faster than Arrow. He was given a contract to do so by the flag officers of the club. The new yacht, Pocahontas, which probably none of you has ever heard of,
No.
was a centerboard sloop, 72 feet, 6 inches overall, 65 feet on the LWL, 21 feet, 6 inches on that controversial beam from that video at the top of the show, 7 feet, 10 deep, and 6 feet, 7 inches draft. A typical old-fashioned single sticker. Pocahontas was late in completion. She started the trial races with no tuning up and in very poor condition. She was also oversparred and developed little speed. Her racing career was confined to 3 Defender trials. They spent all that money and designed this boat. She was confined to 3 Defender trial races against Gracie, Hildegard, and Mischief. Huh?
Okay.
Now, for extra credit, who won the 1881 Defender trials of Gracie, Hildegard, and Mischief? Well, you know it wasn't Mischief. Or do you?
Why do we know that?
You don't. You know it wasn't Pocahontas. Mischief won the Defender trials and faced off against
Look
the
at those
challenger
exams.
Atalanta from the Bay of Quinte, or Quinte as you Canadians would say, the Bay of Quinte Yacht Club in Canada. Remember they had those 2 horrible Canadian challengers that New York considered as a waste of time and money to have to defend against them because they were Great Lakes clubs. Mischief successfully defended the cup, winning 2-0, and it was after those two unsuccessful Canadian challenges that New York Yacht Club amended the deed of gift to require that challengers have for their annual regatta ocean courses, open water ocean courses. So a Great Lakes club could not challenge for the cup.
All right.
Because they didn't want any more of these Canadians coming down from the Great Lakes and wasting their time and energy and money. Or so that was the theory of New York
The
Yacht Club.
sales on that are remarkable.
You like that?
I artistically.
That's quite a painting. Now, there was a challenger from a Great Lake for extra credit. Anybody know who and when that was?
Chicago.
Well done, Julia. Carry on, Professor. Chicago Yacht Club.
Yeah, I don't remember the name of the boat.
1987, the Heart of America.
The Heart of America, right.
And why were they allowed to challenge, even though the deed of gift says that it's only clubs that...
Because a judge in his...
Exactly right. There was a court, there was went to the New York courts, and a request was made specially to see whether they could challenge for the 87 Cup in Perth, and Chicago Yacht Club... The judge didn't say it was okay.
No.
He said there are no objections, so I guess they might as well go ahead. I mean, basically is what that decision said. I was involved in the cup heavily at that point. Okay, enough of all that. The tiebreaker, in case there's still, you've all agreed, they couldn't drink the water, Baton Rouge said, so it must have been legal. Sault Ste. Marie, navigable path, Rick Bannerow was saying. Yeah, but the Chicago Yacht Club did not, and they didn't even contest. They didn't say they did have for their annual regatta.
Access to the St. Lawrence River.
Well, but it was not an annual. The Chicago Yacht Club's regattas are not on an annual regatta, on an arm of the sea. On the sea or an arm of the sea is what the deed actually says.
Mm-hmm.
For a tiebreaker, what was Pocahontas's nickname?
Pokey.
What do you think it was, Julia?
Pokey.
Okay, you've got 3 choices now. Was it you're right.
Oh.
It was Pokey, but was it Pokey, Pokey, or Pokey?
Last one.
Matt? Was it Pokey?
I'll go for the middle one.
You'll go for the middle one? You think it was Pokey?
Yeah, I think that's how you'd spell it in Britain, so that's why I'm going for that one.
Oh, that's a good...
Not that it's a British boat, but just...
Jon Emmett, was it Pokey, or Pokey?
I'll go for IE.
IE. Julia, your guest, Ted Ryman. Ted Ryman says, oh, it's none of the above. It's P-O-K-E-E.
Yeah.
Gordon Smith thinks P-O-K-E-Y. Slow pokey with an I-E. Jonathan Frank is suggesting. He thinks Rick Banner was wondering if the nickname was Elizabeth. Political joke. Good one.
Oh.
Good one, Rick Banner. Well, you're all wrong. Pokey, P-O-K-Y, definition in American English, adjective. If you say that someone is pokey, P-O-K-Y, you are criticizing them for moving or reacting very slowly.
Yep.
I mean, you got to come to Sailing Illustrated to learn these things, guys, right? Now, there's more. What do those other words mean? Pokey is a slang expression for a prison.
Oh, yeah.
You're in the pokey. P-O-K-I-E is a slang expression for a nipple poking. An erect nipple, we got to get into this, erect nipple visible underneath clothing, usually in the plural, pokies. Right, Matt? You knew that, right, Matt?
Well, I mean, Julia picked it, so, I think she's more of an expert on that than I am.
John, do you see any problem with that?
No, but in English, often we use pokey just means very small space, like a small pokey room or whatever.
But what about this last one? Pokies, the Australian slang for slot machines.
Yeah, we call them fruities in the UK because they always have the logos of the cherries and the different fruit.
Fruities?
Yeah, because you want to line up all your fruits together.
John, he's making that up. Tell me he's making that up.
No, fruit machines, absolutely. I haven't heard any of those three.
Well,
I guess you only get small rooms in prisons, so maybe that's where it came from. But.
Well, and as usual, we have the answers here on Thesaurus Illustrated, Jonathan Frank. Julie, get your finger ready. There is a prison. That is a pokey.
Yeah.
With an EY. Can anyone identify that prison? I'm surprised that some of you Brits on here can't identify that prison.
Yeah, I think, is that in Australia?
No.
Oh, no.
It's not an Australian prison. They were in prison before they were sent to Australia. What prison is that, John? Maybe you spent a night there. It's one of the most famous prisons in UK. I'll tell you that much.
The title is on the picture.
See that? The credit. It's not Alcatraz, Graham Sweeney. It's not Parkhurst. It comes from the isleofwight.com. That is one of the most famous prison. I did this in your guys' honor. That is the pokey. That's the her or his majesty's these days prison on the Isle of Wight. Andrew McIrvin got it. Andrew, Isle of Wight. Oh, is that Parkhurst? Is that called Parkhurst Prison?
No.
Wormwood Scrubs, Alcatraz Prison? No, that is the prison on the Isle of Wight where apparently they used to keep famously bad prisoners because, like Alcatraz, the island out here in San Francisco Bay, it was a tough place from which to escape. I'd bribe one of the ferry boat drivers and go. Now, Julia, get your finger ready because here's the P-O-K-I-E-S. We had to have pokies. Now, you thought I was going to put some girl up there, some chickie in a swimming suit, right?
No, I didn't.
You didn't?
Yeah.
There's pokies.
Yeah.
Huh?
Yeah.
Matt?
Yeah, I mean, I was hoping for a chick, but...
You were? Well, just to please you. And that is for Julia. Happy birthday, Julia. I put that in for you.
Yes.
Okay? There's some pokies for you, Matt.
I'm a lot happier now.
You happier?
Yeah.
Julia, that deserves a finger wag from you.
That's the newest style these days.
Is it?
Yeah.
You mean
For
t-shirt
women.
but no bra?
No, the thong is being worn as day wear.
Oh, well, that's not even a thong. I think she's covered up in the back. I see a little bit.
But
okay. Is our beloved sport, now look, I went to great lengths to find that sailing picture. I wasted way too much time this morning. We almost didn't get
looking and looking.
Exactly. I almost didn't get us on air on time, John. Look at his grin. Do you like that one, John?
Well, Cole did a little dance like that on Instagram.
Cole Brower.
Yeah. did a no underwear dance on Instagram, which got an awful lot of views. But in terms of prison, I was going to say Portland is full of sailors and prisoners. There's a prison on Portland. If you go running too far, you end up in the Verne.
Oh, goodness. Okay, finally, we got to cover the pokies, the slot machines. The Darwin Sailing Club, I've come to learn this morning, removes poker machines from their clubhouse. The Darwin Sailing Club General GM, Jon Emmett, says the decision to destroy the club's poker machines has been a long time coming. This is from 4 years ago. 10 pokies were crushed like a Coke can by a metal compacting machine yesterday morning. Darwin Sailing Club GM, John, said the decision to destroy the club's poker machines has been a long time coming. What we do for sailing, what we do with hospitality, that's what we are about. Gaming isn't a driver of what we do. We want to be seen as a club to set an example. Mm-hmm. Darwin Sailing Club's poker machines were installed in the 1980s. Last year, Mr. General Manager said he was faced with 3 choices: upgrade the tired-looking machines, retire them to storage, or dispose of them. A member survey revealed an overwhelming number of the club's 1,000 members and 12 managerial committee members wanted the machines removed. And Stingray gets the comment that deserves a finger wag from you, Julia. Did the Darwin Sailing Club also allow poking?
Of course. But then for a long time, the Australian clubs finance themselves with poker machines.
I have no idea.
And
you spent more time in Australian clubs than probably any of us except the Aussies that are on here.
Probably so. I know. But I think they were gone pretty much by the time I started going, which was in the 60s. But they talked about it. But the argument was the machines were maybe other yacht clubs ought to consider that.
Let's see what Alistair says here. Alistair says, great decision by Darwin Sailing Club. Pokies are a cancer in society.
Yes. Well, they were, except they were financing the yacht clubs at the time. And
maybe they figured out now how to finance it without them.
Yes.
So Jon Emmett is saying, I took a photo of Lillian Rottnest prison in 2011. People thought it was a political statement.
Was it?
John?
Yeah. I was trying to see if I could find it, but I'm not quick enough. It's quite hard because I'm on about a 7-second delay for what you're showing and the voice, so you keep catching me out.
Okay, but well, sorry, I'm sorry you're not seeing it. Well, you're seeing because you're watching on the computer. You're not watching on the send that I'm sending you, right? Oh, you're not seeing the bloody send.
No, I haven't seen anything all show.
What the hell is going on?
Oh!
You're not seeing the show?
No.
Okay, well,
No.
we'll have to make it. I'm sorry, you should have been seeing the show all along. You're the first person. You're doing bloody well for not seeing the show live. Now, Julia.
Sir.
There's another pokey.
Mm-hmm.
And see that? We got a sailing shot to conclude this ridiculous segment.
Oh, yes.
Croutons all around. That is from 1956. That is Gumby.
Oh, yes.
He was introduced on the Howdy Doody show in 1956 with his best friend and sidekick, Pokey. Mm-hmm. Gumby and Pokey go to the lake. Okay, that's a long... Ed Worley's over there saying, what the hell? I didn't submit all those slides. Where'd Eamon come up with that stuff? Thanks, Ed Worley, for Ed Worley Soup, America's Cup, and Super FOSI. Jon Emmett was live on this show, and Matt as well, and we appreciate John coming on. We appreciate Ed Worley's submission for that. A Bravo Zulu here at the end of the show. The reason Matt is here on set today, but also the reason he was here in San Francisco sailing over the weekend is because there is a series here in California. We'll wrap with today's show with this. Match racing skipper Ryan Siago of Detroit snared the first place this past weekend in St. Francis Yacht Club's stop, the third stage actually, on the highly competitive California Dreamin' Series. This is a great idea. There's 4 clubs that host 4 different events over a couple, 3 months. Facing significant flood tide along the challenging Cityfront course, Seago timed his starts to perfection, and there were few chances for the trailing boat to pass. Matt can tell you more about that in a minute. Seago gave great kudos to local crew who joined him at the last minute when his regulars could not get the time off, to make the trip. Sean Bennett was second, edging out Matt Whitfield of Seattle, Washington in a tiebreaker. Whitfield leads the series, having won the first 2 stops. The fourth and final stop, where for all the beans, is at Long Beach Yacht Club in just a couple, 3 weeks in early April. And that will determine what, Matt?
The winner of the series has an entry to FICA Cup for 2025. So 12,
not this year.
12 months from when the
and
the
FICA Cup is
the entry-level event to the Congressional Cup, and
so
named after Bill Ficker.
And how are you doing in this series? You've won the first 2. This one you were third. Really doesn't matter how you do in this one, because if you have to count 3 of them, right, including this last one.
Yeah, so for us, we had a bad weekend, but the results, it makes no difference to. I guess you could say, will we limit other people earning points? But it all goes down to Long Beach, and you have to count Long Beach in the results. So yeah, I think us and Ryan can both win the series still.
Well, this guy, we had him over because they're from Michigan. Clark Chapin, you should know this. We had them over for some pizza and drinks on Saturday night. A nice group from Bayview Yacht Club in Michigan. And they're really enthused about match racing. They had a great time at St. Francis, and St. Francis did a fabulous job running this regatta. There were 8 teams, including, do you see the team? This is the overall standings now going into this 4th and final regatta. You see, and I'm going to have some videos with interviews with some more of these characters on Friday. But you see Julia and tied for 3rd. There's 1st, 2nd, and then 2 teams on 3rd.
Yep.
Sienna Nichols, 15 years old.
I read about her.
Yeah, I may have sent you the video with Lil Brennan, Eddie Kleim, and Maddie Nichols. And these kids are all, what, Matt?
I think they're all sophomores and freshmen in high school down in Newport.
Nice kids. So I've got a nice interview with her and her team. I don't have time to play it today. We're in 2 hours and 15 minutes almost into this show, but I will play that interview on Friday, as well as an interview with Matt Seago's team and a local. We have an interview as well with a terrific sailor here from St. Francis Yacht Club, and we'll cover that on Friday. That is it. We have the last leg here, and I do have the last leg, which is about, guess what? There's your clue.
Sail GP.
And Sail GP is coming up this weekend in Christchurch, as you probably all know. And the big news, what's the big news?
Hey.
What's the big news, John? Remember?
Nath.
Have we lost John?
No, John was just saying the Nathan Outridge.
I think we've lost John's feed. Okay, so I can hear him. I can hear the audio. Yes, the big news is about Nathan Outeridge subbing in for Sebastian
this weekend. It'll be a bit of a special event. It'll be my last event with you guys this season. So yeah, it's a bit of a tough one, but I think it was a good decision for the team and also for my goal, this summer, trying to get that Olympic medal for Switzerland. It was a really tough decision to make, but I've been thinking for a long time, and for the past 10 years I've been working towards the goal of winning an Olympic medal for Switzerland at the Summer Olympic Games. I have some realistic chance, to get that medal. Now is a good moment to maximize those chances, put in all the extra work we have to do for that Olympic medal. That means stepping away a little bit from the SailGP program for the rest of the season. It was probably the best thing to do to maximize chances on the Olympic project, but as well on this beautiful team.
We will enter in a new phase with Nathan Andridge, driving Team Switzerland boat, one of the most talented sailors. At the aim of the F50 Eiger doing 5 events, so it's a great opportunity for all the Swiss sailors, to step up. They will learn a lot, and Nathan will lead the sailing team during the absence of Seba.
The Eiger will be in safe hands with Nathan driving the boat, and I know the team will be in really good hands. I think he'll do an awesome job. He knows the team inside out, so it'll be a very smooth transition with Nathan driving.
When Seba called me and said, look, I want to switch now and focus purely on the Olympics, will you drive the boat for me? Of course, that's an honour. As everyone knows, I've been without a drive in SailGP for the last couple of seasons. I've really enjoyed supporting Seb and the team, and I've actually learned a lot from having to understand more about the boat and helping more than just, say, the driver. So it was great that Seba thinks that I'm a good person to put in charge of the team moving forward, and that's great. And my ultimate goal will be to hopefully return the team back to Seb at the end of the season in better shape than where we are now.
We have a lot of SailGP athletes and drivers coming from the Olympic classes, especially from the 49er. I think the racing is very similar in a way. It's a lot of quick decision, pretty fast. It's helping me a lot for the F50 and vice versa. I think the SailGP circuit helped me a lot to improve my 49er skills and my program. It's been really good to have the two projects balancing each other. We are into a period of the program where there's a lot of regattas, and after that we're heading into a final training block in Marseille on the Olympic venue. So yeah, it's a critical time, to choose your equipment for the games and really make sure you have the best speed possible. The level keeps rising until the last moment, so yeah, we really want to make sure we don't miss anything and can put the full focus.
Having been away from the team for the last 2 events, I'd like to think I've learned a bit from a few other teams, so hopefully I can bring a little bit of knowledge across. But ultimately, it's to build on what the team currently has here. My main goal and what we're sort of expecting is just to try and make more steps in the right direction from where we are. It's been a pleasure working with the team for the last 2 years. Seba and the whole team are fantastic to work with. Obviously there'll be a bit of a different style with me driving the boat. I feel like I'm going to come in slightly more aggressive and be a bit more demanding. Have pretty high expectations of myself and what I'd like to get out in terms of results, and those expectations will flow across the whole team. So we'll hopefully get a couple of training days, and the ultimate goal is to show up at each event over the next few events of this season and just get better and better.
Sure, we've been working hard and that this team has the potential. I think, yeah, we can do something really nice. It's not the end, it's just a little break and yeah, hopefully for the best. I'll be following the team closely and ready to jump back season 5.
So Jon Emmett, did he make the right decision?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, crikey, you would really regret it if you didn't give absolutely everything for the Olympic Games, and we're inside that 6-month period now, and it's important to have some downtime during the quad, but it's a small quad anyway. In fact, I shouldn't call it a quad, it's only 3 years. I think actually people are going to have a bit of a shock to the system for the next Olympic cycle when it's 4 years and feels a third longer. But yeah, no, completely understandable solution, and probably they were thinking about it for a long time before.
Yeah, a good point that we're actually on a 3-year cycle because of the delay for Tokyo. Also, Jody Shields saying, to be brutally honest, Switzerland have underperformed for the 2 years they've been in SailGP. And that series is this weekend in Christchurch. We'll be following it. It is on their Friday, Saturday, which means, it's on their Saturday, Sunday, which means it will be on our Friday, Saturday. I have one more video apropos Nate Otteridge, and he's one of our favorites. He grew up right almost next door to our FOSI, Jody Shields, and I think he will enjoy this video as well. Have a look.
And that's it, ladies and gentlemen, right in front of us. This is why the sailing world knows Nathan Outridge as the Wind Whisperer.
I can't remember that far back when I decided to make those kind of decisions where you do opposite things to the fleet, but I do remember, must have been when I was about 11 or 12. I was interested in the boat, what angle you point at to make it go fast, and then I was like, the wind makes the boat go. Okay, so how do I use this wind to make me go faster? growing up sailing in Australia where it was a fun family environment. When we come to Sydney, we didn't have the money to rent accommodation or book Airbnbs or a hotel room. We would stay at the sailing club that we were racing from. The members of those clubs would offer the floor space to us, so we would sleep on air mattresses and we'd go swimming off the dock and we'd bring soccer balls, and it was just a fun environment. And Tom was there, you know, and we'd go sailing together there, and Mum and Dad loved it because all the parents came together, stayed. They drank wine all night, the kids just played until we all got tired and fell asleep, and then we'd go sailing the next day. You know, in Australia we get a lot of thunderstorms, a lot of rain coming in the afternoon, and I'd be sitting in class at high school and I'd smell something. And I'd say to the person next to me, it's going to rain soon. Sure enough, like within 10 or 15 minutes, it's just pissing down with rain. And they're like, how'd you know that? And I'm like, it's just looking at the clouds. Kind of read the forecast, said it was going to rain today, and could smell it coming. So if you can understand what the weather's doing, but more importantly, why it's doing what it's doing, it's a pretty big advantage.
Pretty good advantage. I thought that was a fabulous video. Huh? What do you think, Matt?
Yeah, I mean, I wish I could smell the rain. It might be useful growing up in the UK.
Well, when you get old, I'll tell you what, my left ankle, which has been broken twice, it smells the rain. It starts to, the pain in Spain stays mainly in my ankle when it starts to rain. Oh my goodness. What'd you think, Jon Emmett?
It's interesting. It's one of the things that I think is so important, the meteorology side of it, because you can't talk to a sailor from 6 minutes to when the race starts. They have to have that knowledge themselves. And yeah, no, I think it's a really important thing. And it's just this thing we talked about with squads, the fact that, funnily enough, you get two incredibly talented sailors who grew up with each other, you know, grew up close. There's a really good book about table tennis called Bounce, which is just, you know, where you had lots of good people who, funnily enough, ended up living very close to each other, and makes you think, was it the other way around?
Okay, well, I thought that was a terrific video too. One of the FOSI, I don't remember who sent it to me. Three of the FOSI sent it to us, but one in particular probably deserves credit. Wind whisperers like Nathan are rare. Indeed they are, which gets us to Whiskey Tango Foxtrot. Stingray, thank you for that. I have one from Martha Peterson. Speaking of promoting our sport, good morning, sir. You have a moment to talk about sailing boats. Right, Julia?
Right.
Come on. And those of you who are doing a lottery, yes, I did still manage to fit it into the show, and that is about the non-sailing CEO. He is a joke, and he's got to go. And that's why I put him today in Whiskey Tango Foxtrot. The non-sailing CEO has got to go, which well and truly gets us to the finish line, which you're probably all happy we are there. Julia, your witness?
Yes. Take this opportunity to like, follow, and share, and particularly share to your own mailing list, because those are the people who haven't seen it and would like to.
Comments are welcome, even in replay, as many of you will be watching in replay. Julia, do you want to thank our two gentlemen for coming on live today?
Yes, indeed. It's a great pleasure to have. I love having all the men around. It's terrific. And thanks to all the FOSI and assorted folks who've helped me celebrate my birthday. I think.
Speaking of which, where is this plant? We got to put that back in your lap. This nice orchid. Those that didn't see it at the time, yeah, maybe you can even hold it for her, Matt. I don't know if she can get it. There you go.
Yeah.
You can even fold up your computer. Oh, don't put it on top of the computer. You've got some nice presents from Darlene Hines, one of our super FOSI.
Yep.
And we want to wish Julia a very happy birthday. In conclusion, we want to thank all of you who give us $1 or $2 or $5 or more a month to keep us on the air. And we work really hard to make sure our equipment is up to date so that at the last minute we can do something like squeeze Maddie in here on a chair with a headset.
Literally squeeze him in.
And get John on live for more than 2 hours from Weymouth in the UK. Thank you, John. Thank you very much indeed.
Have a lovely trip and say hello to your lady.
When do you physically leave, John?
My flight is on Thursday, but tomorrow morning I'll go for a run about 6 a.m. and then drive to the farm.
So will we have a report from you on Friday?
You'll have a report from the farm just in case it goes horribly wrong. It's like I said in the previous vlog, better sooner rather than later. And then hopefully I can get content in China, but we'll see how it all goes.
Okay. Very good. Stingray's telling you, Matt, that from Seattle that Anderson's yacht is available. I guess he wants you to buy into that boat. We all know Dick Anderson.
Yes.
Thanks for your support. Those of you who do give us a few bucks a month back on the Sailing Illustrated and the patreon.com/join/Sailing Illustrated. And thanks to everybody who gave us audio, video, and more for today's show, especially images. We couldn't do it without you. We hope you have a great rest of your week wherever in the world you are. Hope you'll tune in same time, same channels on Friday. In the meantime, sail fast, sail safe, and have fun. Ciao for now. We're off. Terrific, John. Thank you very much indeed. I'm sorry. You should have told me that you didn't have the feed.
Well, I was sort of waiting for it to start.
Well, no, that's the problem with not when we do our tech check, and I just, oh man, don't go away. I don't know why you don't have it either. It's the disappointing thing. Hang on, let me go look and see why you don't have it. Jesus, excuse me.
Awful.
That's
It
really
was
hard.
champion performance.
To either reply when I should reply, but not to talk over somebody because I couldn't tell when it was stopping and starting. And it's quite good to have two cameras because one of them obviously stopped working.
Did one of your cameras stop?
Yeah, it's funny. I didn't notice.
Okay, because it froze up here, and then I started futzing around because I thought it was my fault.
Yeah, it's funny. The camera, which it changed. To start with, I had the normal FHD, and this is the NVIDIA broadcast one.
Okay, let me call you. What is going on?
It's nice to see Matt if he's still there.
What's that?
It was nice to see Matt if he's still there. It's funny, yeah.
Well, let me just get this working before you go. I want to see what the problem is. You're starting to get it.
Yeah, I've got something. I can't actually work out